Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the July Planning Commission meeting. We appreciate you coming out and visiting with us tonight. We are going to run through a couple things real quickly. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then Mr. Compton will, or excuse me, not Mr. Compton, Mr. Tyler will lead us in a prayer. So if you would please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we're just so thankful that you've given us such a great community to live in. We just pray that you'll continue to bless each and every citizen. We ask you to be with every employee that makes this town as good as it is. We just pray that the commission will have the insight to make the best decisions for our city. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
All right, before we do the call to order, Sam, if you would do me a favor. Sam, would you do me a favor and mute everyone online, please? Thank you, sir. Whenever you're ready, ma'am.
Okay. Austin, Howard Austin. Gary Compton.
Here.
Roy Covert.
Here.
James David. Shannon Mueller. Peyton Parker.
Here.
Ben Peters.
Yeah, he's online.
Okay. Dale Tyler.
Here.
All right, first order of business is approval of the minutes for the June meeting. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dr. Compton. Second by Mr. Tyler. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And so
The
passes.
chamber's microphone is muted online. Can someone turn that on?
Okay.
Thanks, Ben.
Can you hear us now?
Nope.
Any luck? Any better, Ben?
That's better, thank you.
Okay, good deal. Thanks, guys. All right, our first order of business is a tabled item, W21-10, Todd and Laura Setzer, 308 East Lakeview Drive. You would please come to the mic and just state your name and address, please.
Yes, Todd and Laura Setzer. And we're at 308 East Lakeview Drive, as stated.
Okay, what can we do for you?
Well, we're here to talk to you about getting a sidewalk waiver for our property. We're on Lakeview Drive, and we'd be the only sidewalk on that property, or on that boulevard. And so I think we're the only new lot probably that'll be there in the future. You know, of course, who knows, right? But there's a couple things where we have drainage. Drainage on the east side is one thing that's moving through the property that the sidewalk will kind of be in the middle of. Not to mention the sidewalk will enter through the neighbors, Jan and Steve Shattuck's flower bed. We'll have to remove that tree. And then the sidewalk, if it were to go to the west, would dump off in a culvert. There's a big box culvert there where we've got, I think it's about an 18-inch underground main coming through there from a collection box in the back of our property. So just due to the structure and how everything's laid out, just us being the only one with a sidewalk, it's a high-speed road, and then we don't see anybody walking on the road.
Okay, staff comments?
Well, we don't normally recommend for approval of waivers of sidewalks. Would you be willing to make payment in lieu of that? So when and if the city does that improvement, you would have already paid into it. You won't have to worry about anything being done with that?
Be fine.
Okay. So it could be a recommendation to council. This has to go to council. The council actually has to make that decision.
Okay.
Could be with a recommendation for payment in lieu of improvements.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So that takes a motion if that's.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Parker,
Second.
second by Mr. Compton.
Compton.
Yes.
Covert.
Yes.
He's not here. Parker.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes,
Tyler.
Yes.
Staff will prepare a resolution to go to council on the 27th.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
Moving on to rezonings, R21-36, Living Savior Lutheran Church, presented by Deborah Young.
Good evening. I'm Deborah Young. I represent Living Savior Lutheran Church, and we purchased a property from Springdale ISD about 6 months ago. That was the Fishback Baptist Church off of Butterfield Coach Road. And I applied for a business license so we can hold church there and was denied because we are zoned Agricultural 1. So I am petitioning the Planning Commission to approve us to be zoned P1 institutional so that we may get our business license approved so that we can have church there.
Okay, staff comments?
And you're going to use the existing structure
Yes, ma'am.
for that, for the time, okay. The adopted comprehensive land use plan indicates commercial use for the area. The rezoning request is in keeping with the following goals and policies of the comprehensive land use plan is recommended for approval. Uses that commonly have moderate to large scale assemblies of people, such as churches, should be appropriately located on adequate sized parcels with sufficient space to accommodate the off-street parking and accessory needs. Such uses should be located so as to minimize any adverse or undue significant burden on adjacent or adjoining land uses as well as that portion of the street system.
All right, anybody in the audience have any comments? Yes, ma'am, if you would please come to the mic and list your name and address, please.
Hi, I'm here mainly to get information. I'm at 3216 Casey Avenue, and so that does adjoin the property. My name is Laura Joseph. So, anyway, yes, I'm interested in, I heard there would be like a fence around it, and I'm just kind of
Well, no,
interested in.
all we're talking about tonight is the use of the
Just
property as a
appropriate.
church.
Okay,
Not doing any improvements or anything to that, but they cannot operate the church there until it becomes P1 or they get a conditional use and they ask to do a P1.
okay. So,
Okay?
thank you.
To the commission, this will be a call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
Parker?
Covert,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes,
Tyler,
Yes.
Compton.
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Staff will prepare the ordinance that goes to council on the 27th.
Of this month?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Next up is R21-37 Mota LLC, 5141 Watkins Avenue, presented by Crafton Tull.
Good afternoon. My name is Clay Schuler with Crafton Tull. So we're looking to rezone this property here from C1 to C5. It's approximately 12.5 acres. And we're going to do that for the sale and immediate development of a medical hospital.
Staff comments?
The adopted comprehensive land use plan indicates regional commercial use for the area. The rezoning request is in keeping with the following goals and policies of the comprehensive land use plan as recommended for approval. Approve the city's economic base and tax structure through the promotion of healthy, stable commercial concentrations. Encourage the development of a wide range of commercial development for the residents and tourists to include neighborhood, community, and regional centers. Encourage the development of regional commercial areas that accommodate a variety of wholesale, retail service, and office uses where the highest volumes and greatest utility demands can be served, and more extensive outdoor display of merchandise along I-49.
Any comments from the audience either here or online? To the commission? This will be a call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
Vote by Dr. Compton.
David,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Peters,
yes,
Tyler,
Yes.
Compton,
Yes.
Covert.
Yes, carries 6-0.
Staff will prepare the ordinance that goes to council on the 27th.
Thank you so much.
Next up is R21-38 Cadence Crossing LLC, 4.95 acres near the intersection of West Gibbs Road and Harbor Avenue. Also on your agenda is P21-01. presented by Engineering Services Incorporated.
Hello, how's it going? This is Blake Murray with Engineering Services. Here before you with the revision to the previously approved PUD for Cadence Crossing. Honestly, not much changed with this resubmittal. Some of the lots changed a little bit for which way the side yards were going to face. And then instead of one area of parking, we divided that into 2 areas of parking, just to kind of spread it out a little bit, give people a little more access to 2 different spots on site. And then the pond was removed with this resubmittal, like we've talked about with staff, and I believe was discussed at City Council previously. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions y'all have.
All the covenants, the development plan itself remains as it was previously approved. Katie, are you online?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, and the engineering department doesn't have any problem with the removal of the detention pond?
No.
Okay, so basically it is the revision to, as you said, to remove the detention pond, to relocate part of the parking, and you said they're changing some of the side lots. I'm not sure I know what you mean by that.
It was very, very minimal lot changes, like incrementally, not like 5 feet or anything like that. It's just the way the building orientation was on the lots. And
Okay, so we still have the same standard. It's
Yes, ma'am.
still the same size lots. It still has the same side, the distance on each one as we approved originally. Because this is the first time I heard that.
The only, on the north side, they actually, you know how you have the side yards? One didn't have one and one did now. Before, neither one had side yards, and it was just, one was a little extra big. So I think the lot sizes each gained a foot, or reduced by a foot, and then the far one on the right actually has a side yard now. So, I mean, it's like very minimal, but our house plans that we did when we submitted before, we didn't have them totally complete. Now they are. So now all of the house plans fit on the lots perfect and everything. So.
Okay, I'm not as worried about the house plans fitting on the lot as I am is the setbacks that you told us are going to stay.
No, they're all the same. Setbacks
Okay.
are all the same. Everything's
No
all the
setback
same.
changes.
They just shifted over a little bit. So.
Okay. Okay, that's all the comments I have.
The audience online or here, any comments? To the commission? This will be a call for the vote for the revised PUD and
No, yeah, just for the revised PUD. We got to do the preliminary plat separately, right? Okay.
Thank you. So to the commission on the revised PUD, this will be a call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
Parker.
Parker,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Compton,
Yes.
Covert,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Passes 6-0. Now this would be for the revision, the preliminary plat rather, for P21-01 at the same location. This would be a motion.
Okay, but first we need to go over staff comments. Do we have any staff comments left?
I don't think we have any staff comments based on what Katie said earlier.
Okay.
Anyone
We're ready to
from-
go.
I'm so sorry, go ahead.
We're ready to go. We need a motion to approve, subject to staff comments. Right now is nothing.
Motion to approve, subject to
Parker.
staff comments.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Compton.
Peters,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Compton,
Yes.
Covert,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Preliminary plat passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Next up, R21-39 48th and Elm Springs LLC, presented by John LaPointe, if I pronounced that correctly. If I did not, I apologize.
Hi, I'm actually Hans Striesank, the CEO of Northwest Medical Center Springdale. That's the business entity that's requesting the change as well. So I don't know if John's here or not.
Okay.
Okay, but I don't know that we can have you represent them, even though we know who you are.
Yeah.
We have to have something that says you're authorized to represent them.
You want me to text him real quick? I'm joking. I'll call John.
We can table it and come back to it in just a minute, and we will, you don't have written authorization.
Is he on the?
John, are you online with us?
I'm Sergio Martinez here with Brentwood Real Estate. I work with John LaPointe. He's actually just had to drop off really quick. He's gonna hop back on, so I'm not sure if we're authorized to proceed with the request.
Okay, we need to wait till we get him back online because he's the only person who's authorized to represent it, okay?
All good?
As soon as, we'll come back to it.
Yeah, we'll come back to it, absolutely. Let's move to R21-40, Highcrest Holdings LLC, presented by Wildcat Shoals LLC, Eric Tangness.
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Tangness, and I'm here to request the rezoning of 105 East Robinson from a C2 to a C5. We found out that we needed this in order to conduct light manufacturing, which is the assembly of weapons along with the conditional use permit, and for the and customization as well as sale of weapons at that location.
Staff comments?
The adopted comprehensive land use plan indicates regional commercial use for the area. The rezoning request is in keeping with the following goals and policies of the comprehensive land use plan is recommended for approval. Improve the city's economic base and tax structure through the promotion of healthy, stable commercial concentrations, encourage the development of regional commercial areas that accommodate a variety of wholesale, retail service, office uses where the highest traffic volumes and greatest utility demands can be served, and more extensive outdoor display of materials will be expected and permitted.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you're online, please remember to mute your phones if you're not speaking, please. All right, we have two things before us tonight. The first is what we talked about just a moment ago, and then also we have a preliminary, a public hearing for conditional use on this as well. It would be to the audience. Any comments online or here? All right, to the commission.
First item would be the call for the vote on the rezoning.
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote by Dr. Compton.
Tyler,
Yes.
Compton,
Yes.
Covert,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
That passes 6-0.
Staff will prepare the ordinance that goes to council on the 27th.
Thank you.
Next would be the conditional use for the same location. This would be a motion.
It's limited manufacturing in a C5 zone.
Questions from the audience, either here or online?
You want me to do the comments? I'm sorry, that's okay.
Probably do that, shouldn't I?
Ingress and egress is acceptable. The off-street parking and loading areas are acceptable. Refuge and service area is acceptable. Utilities are acceptable. Screening and buffering is not applicable. Wasn't sure about the sign. Is there an existing sign on the property and you're going to use it?
There is not a sign
Okay.
at the current. It was residential previously, or it was just a home previously.
Okay, you will need to submit a location to get a permit for a sign. The yard requirements are acceptable. The size and shape is acceptable. The only condition would be that you have to have your ATF permit before you can get a business license.
Correct.
All right. Any other comments from the audience, either here or online? To the commission, this would be a motion.
No, this is a call for the vote.
This is, I apologize. Call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
The vote by Mr. Parker.
Compton,
Yes.
Covert,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Both passed 6-0.
Staff will prepare the resolution. It goes to the council at the same time on the 27th.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
All right, next up, R21-41, Riggins Construction Incorporated Retirement Trust, 3.2 acres, presented by ESI.
Hey, this is Blake Murray again with ESI. We have two properties. These kind of go hand in hand, R2141 and R2142, that are both requested to be rezoned, located just south of Huntsville. And one is zoned C2 currently, and the other one is zoned A1, and we're requesting both of them to be rezoned to MF12. Surrounded by, or to the north we have commercial, and then to the south we have single family. This multifamily rezone would be a good transitional zoning district from commercial to single family. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I do have some building elevations for what we're proposing that I'd like to pass out, if that's okay.
But keep in mind, we're not rezoning it for specifically what you're showing it. We're rezoning it to allow that as a proposed use, not necessarily for what you're showing us.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you didn't ask for a PUD, okay? The adopted comprehensive land use plan indicates low density and commercial use for this area. The rezoning request is in keeping with the following goals and policies of the comprehensive land use plan is recommended for approval. Appropriate locations for single family and multifamily residential development should be provided based on accessibility, site suitability, utility availability, neighborhood compatibility, environmental factors, stabilize property values, and maintain the integrity of neighborhoods by protecting residential neighborhoods from non-residential influences and providing buffers between residential and non-residential uses. Encourage the development of a variety of housing types appropriate to the size and income of all households living and working in Springdale, and allow an increase to medium or high-density residential use when land values prevents economic development of low-density residential. And this will be the same comments for the other rezoning requests too. Okay?
All right. To the audience, either here or online, any comments? Yes, sir. If you would please come to the mic, state your name and address.
Hello, my name is John Robinson. I live on Stockton Avenue, just to the south of the proposed rezoning. And I also come with a petition from 28 of the residents on Stockton and Caroline Clare expressing opposition to the rezoning. Most of that opposition has to do with concerns about flooding. This property here that's illustrated in yellow is on a floodplain. Based on our experience living along that property line, it floods pretty extensively. And so our concerns are that rezoning it to multifamily 12 is going to make the runoff situation even worse. That most of that field is sort of percolation for most of that runoff. So all of Caroline Clare and Stockton Avenue drain into that field along with Oak Grove Road. So if we continue to improve the density on that, we think the runoff could spill over into the neighborhood and make things worse for us. Lots of comments on our petition also stated that there's concerns about the rental community moving into that, affecting the property values in that subdivision below it, and generally our concerns about sort of transitioning the neighborhood from a primarily owner community to a rental community. So I'd be interested to see sort of the development plans, but that's most of the comments that I have in the petition, which should have in all of your email inboxes copies of, are stated there.
First, let me address that the drainage issue is something we will deal with when a development plan is submitted. Right now, with the rezoning, all we're determining is whether the highest and best use of the piece of property is to go to MF12, not whether or not they can meet all the drainage requirements and all that kind of stuff. That would have to be addressed at a later time, and all the adjacent property owners will be notified again when that actually comes forward.
Is there a way to also request during the rezoning that there be some sort of like buffer provided now, or would that be a request that's happening later?
There again, that comes with the development proposal.
Okay.
And we have minimum standards for multifamily, which they would have to provide, open space and screening adjacent to, residential, that kind of stuff, and have to address the drainage issues and all that too.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep. And then I saw a couple other faces too from the neighborhood too.
Anyone that has comments is welcome to come to the mic. I just need your name and your address.
Hello, I'm Joe Hart. I live at 5531 Elm Springs Road, which is just north of this location. I'm not adjacent to it, but about 100 feet away. And I was going to ask the developer that spoke a while ago, who was that? You mentioned there's some commercial property to the north. Would you point out where that is?
A second. Will you, Austin, can you go to the slide that shows where the commercial is? Property on the corner of Oak Grove Road and Elm Springs Road is Zone C5.
Okay, but on this plot right here, there is no commercial property to the north of that?
Correct.
That's all A1?
You're correct.
Okay.
You're right.
Now, I also have a question about the traffic flow. Is there going to be like a private driveway for all these apartments all the way through from Oak Grove to the Gene George?
Again, that is a question that we would address with the development plan.
I mean, because they have to get in there somehow, I'm thinking.
Depending on the number of units, they may have to have 2 access points, meaning that we'll probably be one on both sides. But until we see a development plan, we can't answer that completely, but I think you can assume there would be one on each side. What we're going to look at from the staff level is not to create a cut-through, for people to cut through there and create that problem.
Right. Well, I mean, people could cut through there, and there's not much you could do about it.
Well,
but my question and concern was that picture is not very recent, I don't believe, because the new roundabout has been built there.
That's correct.
Did the screen change? No.
Yeah. Our aerial photography has not been updated to show the new roundabout.
Well,
that's
the city did an excellent job on the roundabout. It's beautiful. The traffic flow is wonderful. I live right there on the corner of Gene George and Elm Springs Road, and it's something to be proud of, but I'm concerned that when an opening comes in there, there's going to be up to 36 units on this left piece, and I don't know how many on the right piece, but a lot of traffic is going to be introduced onto the new Gene George, and it's going to become an intersection that's not really an intersection. And the idea of the roundabout was to create a flow of traffic, and I'm afraid it's going to create congestion in the area. That was my concerns, along with the flood zone and other concerns of that.
Anyone else from the audience, either online or here with comments? To the commission?
Patsy already addressed the flooding, which I think is a concern of mine too. I just think we're not there yet, so I do hear that. I wanted just to address one other comment about whether this is owner occupied or whether this is rentals, and that it doesn't play into our decision when we look at this. Is it residential? That's what I look at. So I just wanted to make that clear that I don't know if these units will be owned or rented, and it doesn't really weigh into my decision at all. So.
All right, any other comments? All right, these will be a call for a vote. We can take them separately, or we can take both tracks together.
Both.
Both tracks together? Do I have a call for the vote?
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
I'm sorry, Mr. David? Was that correct?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
James David. Covert.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Compton.
Yes.
Passes 6-0.
Staff will prepare the ordinances. It'll go to council on the 27th, and it'll go as two separate ordinances, because two separate tracks.
Next up is R21-43, Wilby Lane LLC, presented by ESI.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jason Apple with ESI. We're here to request this 9.8 acre piece of parcel to go from C6 to C5. And I'll answer any questions.
Staff comments?
The adopted comprehensive land use plan indicates regional commercial use for the area. The rezoning request is in keeping with the following goals and policies of the comprehensive land use plan. Is recommended for approval. Improve the city's economic base, tax structure through the promotion of healthy, stable commercial concentrations. Encourage the development of a wide range of commercial development for the residents and tourists to include neighborhood, community, and regional centers. And the difference between these is a C6 is for automotive sales and services. A C5 is just general commercial. And so they're taking it down from a more restrictive zone to a larger use of a commercial district.
Comments from either the audience here or online? Commission, this would be a call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote, Mr. Parker?
David.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Compton.
Yes.
Covert.
Yes, motion passes 6-0.
Staff will prepare the ordinance that goes to council on the 27th.
Thank you.
Next up is R21-44, Parsons Family Trust for an 18.9 acres, presented by ESI.
Hi, yes, Blake Murray with Engineering Services again. As you said, just trying to rezone that piece of property from SF2 to SF3, 18.9 acres. This property's been before y'all a couple of times, so I think y'all are probably aware of it, but happy to answer any questions y'all may have.
Staff comments?
First, let me point out this is a different rezoning request than we heard the last time that was denied because it was asked to be MF4. This is an SF3 zone, not an MF4. That's why it's back on the agenda. The adopted comprehensive land use plan indicates residential use for the area. The rezoning request is in keeping with the following goals and policies of the comprehensive land use plan is recommended for approval. Protect the positive aspects of neighborhood character throughout the city. Assure adequate land allocation for residential purposes by providing lots of adequate size. Encourage the development of a variety of housing types appropriate to the size and income of all households living and working in Springdale.
Comments from either online or the audience here? Yes, ma'am. Please come to the mic and state your name and address, please.
Yes, Karen McPherson, and I live at 1848 Cheyenne Trail. And I do know that Patsy said that this is a different request, but the original request actually was a request for SF3 and MF4. It does not change the fact that it still is going to be additional density that could come out on Cheyenne Trail. And I actually have a packet, if I can present it to you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The actual property that is highlighted there is what the request up there is. And I know I'm not saying this very well, but this is only half of this particular parcel. This is not the entire parcel. So they're asking to have only a portion of the exact same parcel split. Their original request was for that entire parcel and then 2 additional parcels beside it. The MF component of that was on the east side of this request. This is the exact same request that was denied 2 months ago and denied again last month because it was a request that was the same request, and they were told that you have to wait a year before you can re-request it. What they've done is they've come back and they've said, well, we're just going to request then a portion of it. It's also on a holiday weekend where not very many people have been notified. There is also an additional piece of land in their original request that they did not own. They have quitclaim deeded that piece of land on 6/1 last month. That quitclaim deed allowed them to not notify everybody surrounding that parcel of land. You can tell that because there's only 2 of us, 3 of us here. They didn't have to notify everything by doing this. To me, this is unacceptable to come back at another bite of the apple just by basically shrinking down what their request was. There is nothing that addresses the traffic on Cheyenne. There's nothing that addresses the fact that there's going to be problems in the schools with additional density. The schools are Elmdale, Central Junior High, and Springdale High School. They can't really, if you've looked at Elmdale, it's maxed with the number of children today. The actual road that I'm concerned about is Cheyenne Trail that runs straight into Pump Station Road that runs into Hunt Park. Last month, there was, by the City Council, additional traffic that's going to come through because they approved a Veterans Memorial there. So you can expect more traffic than what's there today. Now we want to bump that up even more. I've heard the actual information that, well, it's only 20 more feet of land. Well, you know what? No, it's not. It's an additional 2 houses per acre. I know that they are going to develop it. I know that they have that ability. But why are we allowing additional density in an area that is totally landlocked? this actually should not be allowed to increase the density. If they want to develop it, then it needs to meet all the parameters of the surrounding areas that are SF2. It needs to remain SF2. And I have listed in the letter additional items that it didn't address that was presented 2 months ago, so I don't want to go through all that again. But for me, this is a second bite of the exact same apple that the committee should not allow to happen. And if it is, it's setting a precedence that is extremely dangerous, that anybody can come back when they're denied and just request half of their property for the exact same request. Okay, I'm done. I know that's an event, but I just don't think that this should be allowed.
Anyone else online or in person? Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and address.
My name is Charlene Bowen. I live at 1770 Greystone Place, and also have some property at 1715 Larkspur. And the first thing I want to talk about is the commissioner at the last meeting, he said that everyone can't afford $250,000 and $350,000 homes, and I agree with that. And that's our homes in Greystone and at Cheyenne Trail, some of the homes there. And I just want him to know that I grew up poor. I lived in a three-room house. We had no bathroom. And me and my sister slept on a half bed. So I know what it's like to not have a home. That's $250,000 and $300,000. Me and my husband has worked very hard to get the home that we live in. And so I want him to know that. My son has worked hard to live in the home that he lives in at Larkspur. And so I want people to have homes, because my parents was not privileged to have a home. And so I just wanted him to know that. And then why are you asking for a rezoning if it is going to be a single family dwelling in the first place? Because it's already zoned SF2. Will you answer that question?
Well, an SF3 has a smaller lot size, and the applicant has the right to ask for an SF3 if they want to.
Is it because you can put more houses on it?
They can put 2 more units per acre than an SF2, yes.
So how many homes will be per acre?
Well, 6 is the maximum they can put per acre.
Mm-hmm.
And an SF2, the maximum they could put is 4. Mm-hmm. So it's 2 more units per acre that they can put on that site.
So there'll be 6 homes per acre?
They can. That's the maximum they can put on there is 6 units per acre, yes.
Will they be rentals, or will they be people
That's not a
buying
question
homes?
we get into, because no one has a record when you develop a subdivision where there are going to be rentals or home ownership. I mean, there may be rentals in your neighborhood that we don't know about. That is
No,
not a
there's
condition
not.
of the zoning, whether or not they are rental or owner units.
There's no rentals in our neighborhood.
Well, that may be today, that could change any time. There's nothing that stops that from changing.
Okay. And are they trying to trick us and bring homes from the east on up to the west, on up to Cheyenne Trail?
I don't know what you mean by bringing homes from over there. They are rezoning it for single-family homes. We do not have design standards for single-family homes. We have a minimum size, and that's it. Whether it's SF2 or SF3, that doesn't change.
What I'm saying is, are they trying to do the same thing that we talked about at the last meeting? But they're starting from the east and coming on up.
They are not asking to rezone any of the property across the street from Cheyenne to SF3.
Not yet.
Well, we can only respond to the questions that are asked, and they can't ask for that section to be SF3 for at least a year, because once it's denied, it has to wait a year. This was part of what was included in the MF4. They can come back and ask for it to be SF3. That's why we're hearing this portion of the property, and nothing in the zoning ordinance says that you cannot do a separate legal description and rezone only a portion of it if you want to.
Are they still wanting to put an entrance at Larkspur?
We don't have a subdivision plat for this yet to show where it's going to access it. I don't know. It's not on tonight's agenda, and I don't know that we've seen one yet.
No, we haven't at this
Mr.
time.
Riggins?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they'll have to submit that. The adjacent property owners will be notified again as to how they intend to lay this out with this as a subdivision by itself. It will have access to Pleasant Street or Thelma. They don't really have access to Pleasant Street, but right now that's where more than likely it'll come from.
And will the city be hiring more code enforcement officers, because things around Springdale are beginning to look a little unpleasant these days? Undrivable cars sitting in front yards, grown-up yards, junked-up yards, really eyesores.
Well, that's a question you have to ask council members, not planning commission. We don't hire staff, so you'll have to take that up with your council member.
And where will all the children be going to school? And will they be bused to school? Because right now, from what I'm hearing, they can't even get enough bus drivers.
Well, that is an issue that has to be addressed by the school district. They establish the zones for each of the elementary schools and how each of those schools are populated. That's not something the city nor the planning commission has any control over.
And I'm with my neighbor. We were told that this was not going to be brought up again.
They are not asking for the same rezoning request on this piece of property that they asked for originally.
No, they just cut it in half.
They have the right to do that.
They just cut it in fourth. And so my vote is no on this, and I'm going to keep fighting on this. If I have to go around and get signatures from everyone in my neighborhood, everyone around my neighborhood, and I know how to do that. And so my vote is no.
Sounds like a threat.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I think it was somebody online. I'm not sure what they said.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, either online or here in the audience? All right. Hearing none, we'll move to the commission. This would be a call for the vote. Absolutely.
Just to clarify, there are zonings next door that are MF12 to the south and industrial to the east, both northeast and southeast, just to kind of put things in perspective for some of the previous comments. It's on the map, just south of
You can see the adjacent zoning on that map. The area to the south is MF12, I think. The property to the east is zoned I1. That's the current zoning map that's that you see on the screen.
Yes, ma'am.
The map up there is incorrect. That property to the south right there is zone SF2. I looked it up today. It is single-family homes, and it is not correct on that map.
Darren Riggins with Riggins. Hey, I just wanted, our intent is to sell these homes, and the one zoning that we didn't request, we're not coming back and changing that zoning, the piece. So just to answer her questions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, to the commission.
Yeah. So a couple things. I just, I do appreciate your comments. I want you to know that I value your opinion, and I'm glad that you show up to speak about things that you believe in. I respect that, and I take this, position very seriously. And it is my belief that if we do not give more housing options than just the standard quarter-acre home on a lot, we will not be able to meet the demand for housing that this community faces right now. It's a really critical problem. People cannot find a roof, right? Whether that's buying it, renting it, doesn't matter. We're at a critical problem. And so I don't just want to rezone everything into MF12, but I do want to take each property and look at it and see if it could fit. And I'm sorry, I don't know what you looked at today, but that area right there around Ladon Avenue is MF12. No, the properties to the south of the shaded, the red stripe right there. The property that we're talking about right now.
I'm sorry, I
This is the one that we're talking about right now, right?
Yes.
This, MF12.
Nope.
Yes.
I will go out there and show you, and it is single-family homes. If you drive down Larkspur
You can build
today,
single-family homes in an MF12.
it is. If you look on the second page of what I sent you, or third, I'm sorry, there is an outline of the blue, and that is the zoning classification off of today's map. And that shows that the property that you're pointing to is SF2.
Here's today's map.
Okay.
So, that aside, again, I think that we just have to look at these things as they come across. And this is an infill area. You know, the property owner has a right to develop that property. And so the thing I think I struggle with is that at the last meeting, there was a bunch of outcry because it's going to be an MF zoning. That was the problem. And now it's going to be an SF3 zoning, and there's still the same outcry. So it went from, we didn't want this type of density, and now what I'm hearing is we don't want density at all. And so
No.
I can't, you know, that's what I'm struggling to understand.
The original request was for SF3 and MF. What they were requesting on that original one includes the property then to the east, 2 sections there.
Okay, but
I think
that
yeah.
rezoning application is gone. Okay, we're not discussing that one anymore.
Right.
They came back with a new zoning application for a portion of that property that was originally included as the MF4 and asking for SF3.
And my concern today is the same people that were notified last time were not notified this time.
Because they were not adjacent property owners when you cut that out of the middle.
The whole thing, though, is one parcel. They should have to notify.
It doesn't matter if it's one parcel. The area that they are rezoning, we
Okay,
look at the area that bounds that piece of property, and that's where the notification is
Okay.
sent.
I'm telling you that if that's the case, anybody in the city, when they get an answer of no, can continue to come back and ask for a half, a fourth, an eighth until they get what they want.
I'm not going to tell you they can't, because they can come back and bring it down to a smaller size and go through the process again because the ordinance allows that to happen. They didn't do anything wrong by coming back for just a piece of the property because the ordinance allows that to happen.
And that may be something that you need to address,
Then
but
you
I'm
need to
just
address that
saying.
with your council members because that's an ordinance change.
All right.
That's what I'm trying to
I mean,
clear up.
I think
I
that-
just want it to be clear that there's no special privilege being granted to this applicant, right? They're just following the process that the ordinance says is okay. So I just want to make that clear that yes, what you're saying is true. Somebody can bring back a new request that isn't like the one that, and they have the right to do that.
And
So we have to vote on
And
it.
for you to actually say that the issue was because it was MF is not a true statement, and you can't challenge that because you don't have the same people in the room. The problem was that it was additional density that area cannot handle.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
I was just going to show you the duplexes on the dock there.
That's not exactly where he's pointing us.
Yes.
Trust me, we checked this one very carefully when it was submitted to make sure that we had everything taken care of when we allowed this application to go forward. Discussed it with the city attorney's office, discussed it with the applicant, looked at the legal descriptions that they provided for us, and got to the conclusion that it was different than what the original one was, so the rezoning application could be heard.
And you know what? That tells me that you had concerns about this also. That if you had to do that to that extent, the council right here today was thinking the same way we are in, you're bringing up another bite of the apple.
My concern was that we were not violating the ordinance and letting them come back and apply for the same zoning again in less than a year. That's why we went to the extent to make sure that the legal description was different, that it was the area that was MF4, has nothing to do with what I think about whether it should happen or not. I had to make sure that it met the requirements of the ordinance and was not coming back too soon. That's what happened.
Okay. I mean, all I can tell you is I totally disagree.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it. Council, oh, yes, sir. Go right ahead, sir. If you would please state your name and address.
Joe McKinney. I live on 1801 Larkspur.
Yes, sir.
So my property backs up to that. Wanted to address the comment that the gentleman made about affordable housing. They have finished off the last 3 lots in our subdivision. The house is sold as soon as they broke ground. So there's no reason, single family 2 houses are selling as quick as they can build them. Let's keep it single family 2 there. There's no need to change that to single family 3.
I guess my question goes back the other way. Why? Why only single family?
Why not?
Can you tell me that?
Right,
I mean, that's my question,
right.
is I think it goes both ways, is we don't have to, we can't build the same thing, right? We can't build only the same thing.
But they're selling as quick as they can
Sir,
build
I
them.
understand. I'm a broker. I understand how the real estate market works, but I'm just telling you that a good, healthy community has lots of different types of housing that's available on people on all ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And what I do when I sit here at this planning commission meeting is I look at that property and I say, what is the highest and best use of this property? Should it be residential? I think it should be. I don't think you should extend industrial out here. I would vote against that, right?
No.
So I'm just telling you I'm trying to, a lot of times I feel like we get up here and cast our vote and don't give the folks here some reasoning, and that's why I'm trying to tell you what I'm thinking. There are absolutely uses that I would vote against to go in here. Commercial, industrial, but I think a residential use fits with the other residential uses around it. And we can disagree on that, but that's that's what I feel, and that's how I'll vote.
Okay, yeah.
But keep in mind, an SF3 is single-family units only.
Right, but they're smaller.
It's a smaller lot size, but it's still single-family. You're correct.
Right, yeah. And like I said, I live on Larkspur, and our lots are narrow in our backyard, and that's going to put people, within 30 feet of my back door.
Well, if it was SF2, they have the same setback.
Right.
The rear setback is 20 feet in an SF3, the same as it is in an SF2, so they wouldn't be any closer or any further away if they rezone it to SF3 or if it stays at SF2. That's going to happen either way.
Right. Just
I think and I've got a handy sheet here that I use, and if you want to look at it, you're more than welcome, but I think you will find the differences between SF2 and SF3 are very minimal.
Lot size is the only difference.
So if you want to look at this, I'm more than happy to share it. But
So you made the question you asked, why not leave it, why not go to SF3 in any lot? There are concerns with Cheyenne Trail and the traffic on that road. And we have tons of land on the east side of town that is acres and acres where a school can be built, where the utilities can be properly sized. You're asking for something that has been there since day one in that zoning to change it and reduce that density and actually increase that density where nothing was ever planned that way.
I'm trying to think about sprawl. So we have a buildable piece of land here sits in the middle of town. So what I'm thinking about is sprawl. I don't particularly think it's a great idea to keep building on the outskirts of town.
I think
we should develop what we can develop that's in the middle of our town that's close to restaurants and schools, et cetera. So, I mean, like you said, I think we just disagree, and that's fine. But I want you to know I appreciate the comments, and And I do hear them. I do hear them. I just disagree.
All right, any other comments from the council or from the commission? Otherwise, this would be a call for the vote.
Call for vote.
Call for the vote, Mr. David.
Is Mr. Austin online? I was told Howard Austin was here. I was misinformed. Oh, excuse me. Okay, so Peters?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Compton?
Yes.
Covert?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Staff will prepare the ordinance that goes to council on the 27th.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, next is C21-14, Jose Martinez-Sandoval, 3805 Kelly Avenue, presented by Stephanie Lavara.
Hey everyone, just a reminder that John LaPointe is online now from that one you tabled a few minutes ago.
All right, we will come to that in just a few moments. Thank you so much for the reminder. If you would please state your name and address for us, please.
You can take your mask off or you're speaking. It's a little bit easier to understand.
Okay, it's Stephanie Guevara, and it's on 3805 Kelly Avenue in Springdale.
And what you want to do is put a food truck at this location?
Yes, that's what he wants to do.
To be there permanently?
Permanente?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. The ingress and egress to the site is acceptable. The off-street parking is a little bit confusing in that there is no dimensions to know if the scale that you have on this map is correct. It looks like the food truck is a lot larger on here than what the actual food truck is. And where are the designated parking spaces for the food truck? And it would be, does it take up part of the parking for the entire structure?
Yes. Some of it. It's more on the front, but then there will be the additional on the front.
Okay, are you, this food truck will operate off a generator? Are you hooking it to power?
Electrical.
Okay, you're going to hook it to electric on site?
Yes.
Okay, do you know how that's going to happen? Because it doesn't show here on how that you're going to get power to it. You have to ask for a variance to be able to do that. What about a signage? Are you doing any signage except on the food truck itself?
Yes. Just on the sign. I mean on the truck.
Just on the truck itself? Okay. And it's hard for me to know if it fits and meets the requirements because the drawing's not to scale. It shows a trash bin on there. Is that for the business itself, or is that part of, you're adding a trash bin for the food truck?
He works on that building, so he'll be there, so it's also included with the trash. I mean, with the company and the
Okay, so does the business
food
owner
truck.
know that that's your intentions to use that for the
Yes.
trash as well?
Yes.
Okay, because I don't have anything in here that
Okay.
shows that. I can't tell you whether it's compatible or not because the site plan is not drawn to scale, and I can't tell if it fits on the site itself. This looks a lot larger than I think that's what's really out there.
Okay.
So my recommendation would be that we table this and they bring back a scale drawing so that we can determine whether or not this will actually fit on there as they are proposing.
Do you understand what she's asking for?
Yes, yes.
Okay. We'll table this, and if you'll reach back out to the planning office, they'll get you rescheduled for another meeting, okay?
You'll be on the next meeting, which will be August the someday. Second or third. something
And how
like that.
many?
First Tuesday.
How many parking spots are they required to have for a
Have to
food
have
truck?
3.
They have to have at least 3.
But we have to know how many is required for the business to know if they've got 3 spaces that they can give up or not.
It's the third.
I just want to make sure that that's what we're trying to, I think that's the big question is the parking.
If you will come by the office, we'll sit down and talk about what you need to do as scale drawing so that we know it
Or
fits on that site.
showing
Because it's a
for.
pretty small site.
Have to make sure.
All right, today or some other day?
Well, I'm not going back to the office this afternoon,
Okay.
so you need to call the office in the morning and we will schedule a time where we can do it. I would suggest you go out there and do some measurements, so you know the distance from the edge of the building to where you're gonna put it, to where the fence is, and have some dimensions so we know it will fit.
All right, okay.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Next up is, we're going to go back to R21-39, 48th and Elm Springs LLC, presented by John LaPointe.
Good evening. I apologize for having a misstep off earlier. We're looking to rezone the 1.5 acres at the intersection of I-49 and Elm Spring Road from C5 to C2. Just looking forward to trying to move this thing forward. I apologize again. I'm just in the middle of boarding up my house for the hurricane.
Comments? Oh, gotcha.
The comprehensive land use plan indicates regional commercial use for the area. The rezoning request is in keeping with the following goals and policies of the comprehensive land use plan is recommended for approval. Approve the city's economic base and tax structure through the promotion of healthy, stable commercial concentrations, encourage the development of a wide range of commercial development for the residents and tourists to include neighborhood, community, and regional centers.
Comments from the audience or online? To the commission, this would be a call for a vote.
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote by Mr. Parker.
Compton,
Yes.
Covert, David,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Staff will prepare the ordinance. It goes to council on the 27th. Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
No worries. Motion passes 6-0. And thank you, Mr. LaPointe, for being patient and waiting for us to catch up there.
No, I apologize for having to step off before. Have a great day.
Okay. Next, we're going to move on to P21-01. This is preliminary plats, replats, and final plats. Cadence. Oh, you know what? We already did that one, did we
We
not?
already did that one.
Sorry. P21-12, Clayton Street Business Park. This would be by ESI.
Yes, Blake Murray with ESI again. Get this pulled up. This project's been before Planning Commission a couple of times in the past. For whatever reason, we never started construction on it. My client didn't at the time, so we're bringing it back before you again. Looks very similar to how it was before. Preliminary plat, 2 phases, and a total of 12 lots, one of which is a detention pond. I believe 2 variances or 1 combined variances before you all for dead-end street length and having a private street from where the public street ends to the end. Happy to try to answer any questions y'all have. It does abut a floodplain. All of that's been taken into consideration with this design.
Comments?
Standard comments from the planning department. Engineering summary, revised street signs, blue and green colors are labeled incorrectly, says. Street section does not match MSP local street section. Can you speak to that, Blake?
Yes, we've gone back and forth about that a few times in the past, and it's my understanding the master street plan is kind of the minimum width paved lanes that are required. And in the past, we proposed a 30-foot back of curb to back of curb street section within a 50-foot right of way, and it's typically approved on most of these projects.
Okay. All street infrastructure, including sidewalks, should be contained within the access easement of the private street. Clarify notes on lights. The question is, are they street illuminators or parking lot lights? So I think we're just needing some clarification on that.
Okay.
Complete section 1.2 property owner information, including contact info and signature on floodplain development permit application, and remove individual lot improvements from the plat. That's all the staff comments we have.
Okay. Also, this has a variance, B21-53 with it, which we'll take separately. This is for a variance for deviation of a master street plan for proposed dead-end street to be longer than 800 feet, being 1,228 feet, and also developing a private road with 30-foot access easement rather than dedicate the road as public. Any comment?
And I would like to clarify that second variance. The engineering department was not aware of the existing right-of-way on that public portion of the street prior to that variance being submitted. So now we understand why this street has been proposed as half public and half private, where we were not given justification before that there is that existing right-of-way. So I'm not sure if that variance is applicable. I guess that's up to you guys.
Katie, you may have to get just a little closer. We're having a real tough time hearing you. I'm sorry.
Oh, hold on. Okay, let me see. Does that help at all? Or did that make it worse?
Not really, but I think Brian can help.
I can explain. When Mr. Taldo and I purchased this property, there was actually no access other than to the east. And so we ended up getting a right-of-way for Mr. Ferguson and dedicated it by a separate document. So that was done 5, 6 years ago. Whenever we purchased it, we're now finally ready to start. And so I think what she's saying is that we don't really need a variance. I'm really not sure why we'd need that variance anyway, but because that part is public, and then we're going to do a private street from there. And you can kind of see where on the plat where it says private and then public on the left, or private on the left, public on the right. So does that help at all?
Yes, thanks, Brian.
Katie,
I can hear you now.
Are you asking for a document that shows how the street is to be maintained, since it will be private development? Is that something engineering asked for?
That was not one of our comments. No, we were more just looking for clarification or justification as to why the street was half public and half private. And then once we were given the right-of-way documents for that initial portion, and that made sense. We didn't have that piece at the beginning.
Okay.
Because our stance was, well, why don't you just make the entire thing public? Or, I mean, private, rather.
Well, they'd have to vacate that right-of-way if they wanted to take over that portion of it, and they're not asking to vacate that portion of it. Okay, we need Blake to comment about the length of the cul-de-sac, because that's a fire department issue, as well as a zoning ordinance or master street plan issue.
Yeah, Blake Holt, Springdale Fire, with the dead-end street exceeding 800 feet, the fire department would approve construction provided all the buildings are sprinklered.
Okay. And the developer knows that all the structures have to be sprinklered if this variance is approved. So the variance need to be approved with that condition that all structures have to be sprinklered, so that we don't have to come back and address this sometimes later, okay? Because we can't give you a variance for it to not be sprinklered anyway.
Yeah, it's actually shown on the plat, and that's what we agreed to 3 or 4 or 5 years ago when we brought it to you last time, so it's not a problem.
Well, we want to make sure it's still on there, okay? I don't think we have any other comments, do we?
No.
All right, to the audience, either online or here, any comments? All right, hearing none, this would go to the commission. Do you want to do a call for the vote since we're dropping the variance? Is that correct?
Well, they still have to have the variance for it to be longer than 800 feet. That variance still remains. The other one, you know, we're just really granting the one. I'm not sure why we had the other one either. But anyway.
All right, you want to do a call for the vote first? All right, call for the vote, please. To the commission?
Call for the vote.
Parker?
Covert?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Peters?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Compton?
Yes.
All right, that passes 6-0. Now we need a motion subject to staff comments.
Motion subject to the staff comments.
Dr. Compton?
Second.
Second by Mr. Tyler.
Parker?
Yes.
Peters?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Compton?
Yes.
Covert?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Passes 6-0. Ma'am? All right. All right, next up is P21-13, Hilton Road Subdivision Phase 2, presented by ESI.
Yes, it's Blake again with ESI. Hilton Road Subdivision Phase 2, this is a very minor modification of the originally approved plans. Before, Hamlet Street had a knuckle turned and continued to the east to tie into Hilton Road. We have an adjacent development to the south of here called Hilton Phase 3, which has previously been approved by Planning Commission. Now we're proposing that Hamlet Street to go south and connect to that phase as well, just for more interconnectivity between the subdivision. So that's the only change from the originally approved plans.
Staff comments?
No comments from the planning department. Engineering summary. Street section does not match MSP local street section. Looks like less than 6 foot of green space is shown. Can you speak to that, Blake?
It's the same comment as on Clayton Street. Basically, my developer likes the 30-foot street section, back curb to back of curve hills, to give some drivers more room for maneuverability.
Well, and also we've already started construction out there. The only change, and Blake kind of said it a little bit, but if you see the left north-south street, the 150 feet from the intersection down is the only change on this whole plat. So it used to have a knuckle there and did not have a south exit. But Mr. Riggins bought the property, the 10 acres to the south, and so we've now got that connection that will help with traffic flow throughout this whole development. So the reason, I mean, they're out there working and have been for a while, although if the rain would quit, they'd do more, but they're actually out there working, so that's why we'd like to keep the 50-foot right-of-way 30-foot street.
Thanks. And we also
Maybe
have
this is something to address on not a revision, but the engineering's point of view is that the master street plan is not a minimum width. Those are the street sections that should be shown for those types of streets. We see traffic issues when streets are too wide, and when something should be a low volume local street and is classified as, or it's shown as what we would classify it as a high volume local street, those street speed limits are set to 30 miles an hour for high volume local, and that's not what we would prefer to have in residential. I understand that this is a revision, but it's just something we've been seeing, and so we're making the comments as we see it.
Thanks, Katie.
And if I can address that, we can go back to the city council meeting with Ms. Christie and I, and she'll remember this as well, that this was a minimum. This gave the developer options. And of course, that's been about 10 years ago, but that's what was stated at that council meeting. If we need to go talk about that, we can. I know Katie wasn't here then, but
Well, I think we need to talk about it in the issues that they just addressed. We're seeing more people park on the road. We're seeing higher, I think when we come up with our next master street plan revisions, I think it's probably not going to be optional that we need to go to a smaller street so we don't create those traffic problems that we have now.
I'm just saying what was approved had that caveat.
Brian and I disagree on this one. We're going to continue to disagree on it because I think the wider streets create more of a problem for traffic movement, as engineering just stated. And you can look around town and see that. When you get cars parked on both sides, it really creates a problem. But nonetheless, this one was one of those that started when the master street plan allowed for 50-foot right-of-ways and wider streets.
Any other comments, staff?
Katie, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, and we also do request that the modified curb not be used in residential streets.
Okay.
That's an easy one.
Where are you proposing modified curbs?
For commercial?
At Hilton.
I'm sorry?
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood your question, Patsy. There's a modified curb for where Hamlet Street meets Hilton.
Hey, is there a reason why you have a modified curb there?
I do not think so, except for the fact that it's kind of flat, so the continuation of the drainage along that street. In some cities, if it's less than 1%, they require it, but we can remove that. It's not a...
You can fix that one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right. To the audience, either online or here, any questions? If you do, please come to the mic and state your name and your address. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Juanita Rojas, and
Pull that down. I apologize. Pull it down just a little bit. There you go. Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Juanita Rojas, and I live in 3873 Stonehenge Avenue. The phase 2 and Hilton houses, I think they start to building the houses too high, the level. The houses, we are in Stonehenge, our neighbors. So the level for the new houses is like this, though we are floating on the patio.
Okay.
I have a video.
And your question is about drainage? Is that what your question is about?
Yeah, the water, they put too tall from on our behind to the patio. So when it's raining, all the water just come to our yard, backyard.
Okay.
Okay, you guys want to address that? Don't you have a drainage swell on the back of those lots?
You're talking about phase 1?
It's phase 2.
Oh, they're still constructing phase.
Yeah, but they start construction too tall from our home.
You should be where you're at.
Since it's under construction right now, there are a number of soil stockpiles out there, but looking at the minimum finished floor elevations that are set for the homes that are adjacent to Grand Valley, they're about the same.
Thank you, Katie.
They are not the same, or they are the same?
No, they are the same. They are not proposing much higher.
Yeah, I have the video. We won't behind you because the last raining, they do it so long to the water gone. So my neighbor is in 3801, I am 3873, my neighbor is in 3897. Our houses are floating because they make the houses too tall.
Okay.
And I have the proofs.
Okay.
So I don't know why they fix it.
Can I speak? Okay, Katie, that's something you guys need to address then, if it's, is it while it's under construction, or is it long-term?
Let me talk. This construction site sat untouched for about 6 months because the previous contractor went under. And we had issues with water pooling on the site, and I believe Public Works had to go out there and make some temporary swales. So we are aware that there were drainage issues as the site sat vacant during the spring, but we do not see that this is an issue with the development itself. It's just the management of the construction site, which we now have a new contractor who's working on that.
Okay, did you understand what she said, ma'am? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so
Because I'm
what
a
she's...
next door neighbor. And
Yeah.
I'm Priscilla Duncan, and I live at 3897 Stonehenge. This was all addressed before the preliminary plat was approved, the final approval on that. I believe Jimmy Bowen came and spoke several times and talked about the water problem that ran through this property before it was ever started to be developed. And so now we have it.
Yeah,
We're
I
in
think
existing
that's what
homes,
Katie was addressing,
and
yeah.
I think it sounds to me like her house is much worse than our house is, because we had repaired some of it when we first moved in. What the other contract, I'm not sure if the new contractor or the other one did, they dug like a 3-foot, 4-foot, however deep trench it is, from where Lee Field would be, all the way down to the detention basin on phase 1, so that the unfinished Lee Field street would drain because it was sitting in about 2 feet of water, and the property just to the east of that, behind existing homes on Stonehenge, the empty property was just sitting. It was a lake.
Yeah, if I understood her correctly, they've got a new contractor in tow now, is that correct, Darren? You got a new contractor on the program. So the contractor that was doing that work had gone under, and so that's why it's set for a while and probably why you're experiencing some of those issues. The new contractor is working with the owner, as well as I'm sure Public Works is involved, from what
Right.
Katie said as well, to make sure that that's something they remedy.
They're in the
Work with.
process of leveling out
Yeah,
all the mounds
okay.
that were left by the first contractor, but they've not done anything yet, along the existing homes, which are ours. The drainage ditch that they dug is there, and today they mounded the dirt just to the south of that. Our home is to the north.
Okay.
But just to the south, they've mounded the dirt yay high.
Do you have some comments,
So that's
Darren? Go
going
ahead.
to increase the problem, I believe, the next big rain for her.
I'm happy to give you my contact number. I'll come out and take a look at it.
Okay, well, just look at the ones on
Yeah, so I'll give
Stonehenge
you
that
my
are just
cell
east
after
of
the
Lee
meeting.
Field.
Get your address.
Right, the 3,
So
4,
Darren, you're offering to give them your contact numbers so y'all can meet out there and address the problem on site? Okay.
Thank you.
Katie, you probably need to be involved in that as well.
I'll be there also.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Any other comments either here or online? If not, it's to the commission. This would be a call for the vote.
Now, I do have a question. I need some background on this thing we're talking about with the street width. Explain to me what's going on. Dumb it down for me.
The master street plan was approved 2015, probably, and it hasn't been updated since then, and it set the new standards. I'm sorry? Ben may remember when it was, because it was when Ben was here. But anyway.
It was prior to 2010.
Before 2010, okay. And at that discussion at that time, it was recommended that that would be the street standards that were used. It hasn't been changed over the years to make that mandatory. We've had discussions 4 or 5 times, and we haven't actually made it. Most of the time, the developer wants to do the narrower streets because it saves them money on construction cost, and most of the subdivisions. This whole area out there was platted a long time ago with these wider streets, and construction was started with those wider streets, and that's why they're asking to continue the same thing in this portion of it. Now, the newer sections that we did the PUD on, you're doing the new standards.
The stuff to the east, the 105 acres it's called Brentwood Village now, PUD, that all has the smaller stuff. But, number one, we've started construction, but number two, if phase one's right there that goes into phase two, and if you start changing, it's going to look kind of weird. So
this was all laid out as part of Grand Valley and approved years and years ago, too.
I was wondering why, if it's not a requirement, why it wasn't a variance request. And it doesn't sound like it's a requirement.
It's not ever been addressed.
It never has been addressed to make it mandatory. Most everybody agrees to it. We got one that, because it started, as I said, started out as Grand Valley years ago. It all got laid out that way, and they haven't changed it very much from how it was originally laid out.
Yeah. Now the new one to the east is all laid out as low and high.
And we're going to change that language when we go to the new one, to the new Master Street plan.
Okay.
Sure.
Keep in mind,
I just want to make sure I wasn't missing something from 15 years ago that
we were supposed to do that, and COVID kind of caught us with not getting things done.
Okay, yes, because we have heard from people over on Butterfly and the wider streets, people driving through, cutting through, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other comments from the commission? If not, this will be a call for the vote.
Nope, this is a motion to approve, subject to staff comments. Sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to staff comments.
Sorry. We have a second?
Second.
Second. David?
Compton.
Yes.
Covert.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Peters. Peters.
I think he's trying to answer.
Okay,
I can't hear you.
It looks like, yeah, okay. Tyler.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, motion passes 6-0. All right, P21-14 Noah's Landing, east side of 56th Street, presented by ESI.
Blake again. This subdivision has come before previously, I believe. It's off 56th Street on the east side. It's directly next to a couple of other ones that are going on right now. As proposed, we are asking for, I believe it's 29 total lots, and one of those is a pond lot. 29 total lots. And just got your typical water and sewer detention pond. I think we addressed all of staff's comments. Happy to try to answer any questions y'all have.
This is also, I should have mentioned this earlier, I apologize, also a two-parter. We also have a variance for deviation from the master street plan for proposed dead-end street to be longer than 800 feet, which we'll separately at the end. Staff comments?
We do actually have a number of engineering comments. Katie, are you okay addressing these comments so you can provide a little more context for some of these?
Sure. This is the same comment that this is not the street section that's shown in the master street plan. This is a wider street section that matches the high volume local street section, which typically is set for traffic counts between 500 and 5,000 cars per day and speed limits of 30 miles per hour, which we do not believe is necessary or in fitting with a residential subdivision. And then, let's see, we would request that the modified curb be removed as well. And we have a couple notes on the site plan that we're requesting about stockpiles and about street lights, whether they're public or private. We're also looking for a full signage plan for the subdivision, handicap ramps and crosswalks shown on the plat, and minimum finished floor elevations for the lots that are adjacent to swales.
Thank you.
Any other staff comments?
This one also has a discussion about the length of the cul-de-sac, and Blake, you want to address that?
Yes, again, the request is for a dead end to be longer than 800 feet. Two situations on the original proposed plat would trigger sprinkler requirements. One is 30 lots or greater residential. And so they reduced that amount, and the other one is the length of drive. Our agreement is that a connecting road, a second entrance, if you will be available at time of final plat, and so this is to allow them to get started basically on construction with an agreement that we will have a second access point, so we won't have a dead end then greater than 800 feet at the time of final plat. Does that make sense?
Okay, I have a question, because the agreement that we got from, or the email we got from Chief Irwin indicated that you would not be building on any lots that exceed the 800-foot block length until there's a second entrance. But you can't build on any little lot till you get final plat approval anyway.
Correct. And here's what's actually going to happen, and Austin and I have discussed this. When we originally submitted this 90 days ago, the fire department, we have another access that we're going to be able to grant, but we were looking towards a one to the east or the south to the subdivision that y'all approved 30 days ago, or maybe 60, I'm not sure. So Ed Stith and Fire were okay calling it an alley. Planning didn't want it to be called an alley because it didn't meet the definition of an alley, right, Patsy?
Correct.
So because of semantics, we got held up for quite a while. I met with Chief Irwin. Chief Irwin said, yes, you can make it an emergency access. It's not a problem. Okay, so, but in the meantime, we had submitted this plat. So we have already turned in the plat for the whole thing for next month's meeting. But what we're trying to do is the weather, if it will cooperate and quit raining a little bit, we really need to get dirt work started. So what we're asking for is you to approve this preliminary plat, us to get a grading permit, actually go out there and start grading, and at the next meeting, you will have the revised preliminary plat, if you will, showing the property to the south with another access, and everybody will be happy, or at least the fire department will be for sure. So, did that make sense?
Katie, does that work for you, to give them a grading permit based on this?
To get a grading permit, you would need to address all staff comments and submit application, fee, SWIP, notice of coverage.
Not a problem.
And the like. We typically allow for provisional grading permits prior to project approval in this case, so this is just going about it a different way, I guess.
We're very close, and I spoke with the developer, and they are okay reducing the street, Patsy. So on this one, so
Okay, you will build to
we will
master
build
street
to the
plan
master
standards.
street plan standards. Yes.
Okay, so that
So
variance request goes
take,
away.
Yes, you can take that one off the table.
Well, you didn't ask for a variance anyway. It's the length of the cul-de-sac. You can't
Yeah.
sell any lots until the final plat is approved. So you
Anyway,
gotta have
so it
that
doesn't
second
it doesn't
access
really matter.
point anyway.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you, Brian.
Taking the variance.
I don't see any point granting a variance at this point because they can't build houses anyway.
Okay.
As long as I get a grading permit, it's okay.
Well, I can't issue a grading permit, so I can't address that. But if Katie doesn't have a problem, you have to work with her, not me.
That's 2114, just for the call. Motion, excuse me.
Motion, yeah.
And to clarify, it's 27-foot back of curb to back of curb in a 50-foot right-of-way as shown, and instead it would be 29. So one parking on one side of the road is 29-foot, and then within a 46-foot right-of-way would be the master street plan for a local.
And you will designate which side the parking is going to be on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Questions online or here in the audience? All right, to the commission.
Make a motion subject to staff comments.
Mr. Parker.
Second.
Second by Mr. David.
David,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Compton,
Yes.
Cover.
Yes, motion passes 6-0.
And the variance was approved with that, just so I
Not gonna worry about the variance because it would only
Okay.
affect when you have your final plat.
Perfect.
You're gonna have that all worked out before then.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Okay.
you.
So for clarity, your variance has been dropped. It's not being looked at tonight. FP 21-02 Sundance Division, presented by Bates and Associates.
Yeah, this is Jake Chavis with Bates and Associates. I am representing the applicant and the owner here. I'm here for any questions if anybody has any.
Staff comments?
Standard comments from the planning department, engineering summary. Final plat should show minimum finished floor elevations for lots, show drainage easement for pond on final plat, submit as-built, submit engineer certification, statement of cost for streets and storm drainage, detention certificate and field geotech report, submit one-year maintenance bond, submit proof of payment to the city for cost of installing street signs, and there's a question here, have corners of the subdivisions been monumented? Katie, do you want to expand on that?
And these are items from our engineering checklist. We typically look for these before the final plat is signed, but I did actually do a site visit today. Site's looking good, and we have no problem with the final plat being heard and passed tonight, if you guys agree.
Thanks, Katie.
Comments from the audience either here or online? To the commission?
Subject to approve, subject to staff comments.
Parker?
Second.
Second by Mr. Tyler.
Parker?
Yes.
Peters?
Yes?
Tyler?
Yes.
Compton?
Yes.
Covert? David?
Yes.
Passes 6-0.
If you want this final plat to go to council next Tuesday evening, the ordinance needs to be in my office by noon Thursday.
Yes, ma'am, we will do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is FP 21-03 Spring Meadows, presented by ESI.
Blake Murray with ESI again.
Blake, for clarity, you know you're not going to get an award just because you keep coming back.
I know, but I am
Okay.
winning tonight.
That's one of my, I appreciate the tenacity, though.
So this is Spring Meadows subdivision. This was originally in Bethel Heights, and then right before the final plat came through, it was annexed into Springdale, and then subsequently the final plat was approved. Bethel Heights had step systems, they had tank, pump, everything with it, but it had very limited things as to what you could do, what types of pumps, what types of tanks, all those things. After talking with my developers, they want to use a different tank and a different pump. That was for each individual lot, for clarification. That was approved by Springdale Water with the caveat that we added a note to the final plat and then come back through the process again. That's why we're here before you tonight. I do have Tim with Springdale Water who can speak to that, but basically the note has been added that talks about ownership, operation, and maintenance for what's the lot owner's responsibility versus what's Springdale Water's responsibility.
So basically what we're doing is putting on the final plat, so when someone buys a lot, they are made aware from the very beginning, because it's on the plat, they are responsible for maintenance and everything of equipment that's different than what Springdale Water would approve, correct? Now, do they have the option to use different equipment if they want to? You need to come to the...
If you would please state your name and address, please.
I'm Tim Hawkins with Springdale Water Utilities. So yeah, to use a different equipment, you need approval from the utility.
Okay, but what I'm asking is, with this note on here, they have to use the equipment that the developer is proposing to use for every one of those lots, or they want the ability to use it for certain lots? And I was under the understatement or the impression that all of the lots were going to use the same equipment. Okay, I think the developer's standing right here.
Michael Crosno, Bauman and Crosno Construction, that's correct. So we are the builder, we're the purchaser of the lots, not the original developer. But we have sourced a new step system from Aquatech Systems, a local company, and we will be installing that when we build the houses and sell it to the purchasers, the homeowners. And all the homes have been sold with the understanding already that they, or the homes that are under contract, I should say, the homeowners have the understanding and know that this is coming.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's going to be all this, the whole subdivision will be the same equipment, and everyone knows it's their responsibility?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And if they sell it to someone else, that requirement goes with the property as it's sold?
Correct.
Okay. This is kind of unusual, but we didn't have any other way to do this, so.
Any other staff comments?
No comments from staff.
All right, to the audience, online or here, any comments, questions? To the commission?
I make a motion to approve, subject to, there's not any comments, but subject to staff comments.
Yes.
By Mr. Parker,
Second.
by Dr. Compton.
Peters,
Yes?
Tyler,
Yes.
Compton,
Yes.
Covert,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to large-scale developments. L21-197 Brew, presented by Bates and Associates, and we do have two variances or several variances as we will go through this as well.
Yeah, this is Jake Chavis from Bates and Associates again, and I'm here representing 7 Brew, and I'm here for any questions.
I apologize. Before you get started, I'm not sure if you're away from your phone or from your computer, but could you please get a little bit closer? We're getting a lot of echo.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. That's much better. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm here again. This is Jake Chavis with Bates and Associates. I'm representing 7 Brew, and I'm here for any questions the commission has.
Staff comments?
Any comments? MSP indicates an 8-foot multi-use trail on the northern side of East Robinson. I do believe we're not showing that at this time. The two drives do not meet the minimum 150 feet of a separation on a single track. That's one of the variance items tonight. As shown, a shared access easement will be required to be dedicated as the drive encroaches on the property to the east. And the question is, will this access be designed to accommodate a future connection for the parcel to the east? Given the placement of the drive, any future access on the east of this property would not meet the minimum 150-foot separation on a single track. I think staff is concerned, based on the way that the drives are currently shown centered on the property line, that any future development on the east will require an additional variance. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, our thought process here was whenever that track to the east develops, that they'll have to build a median or something to get it in compliance.
They'll have to build a median?
Yeah, whenever on that shared drive there.
So is the intention to use the shared drive that's being shown on the east of this property to also access that parcel on the east? Or will an additional curb cut be requested?
No additional curb cut will be requested for when the parcel to the east develops.
Okay, thank you. The submittal informal plat, we do have an informal plat in process alongside this development that will need to be approved and filed prior to approval of the construction plans for this project. Sidewalks no less than 5 feet in width should be provided along the full length of the building, along any facade featuring a customer entrance, and along any facade abutting public parking areas. I believe specifically on that one, we're not showing the building foundation landscaping, and we're also requesting a sidewalk or pathway that is provided for the employee parking areas, which is currently not shown. That's a variance item. All internal walkways shall be distinguished from driving surfaces through the use of durable, low-maintenance surfaces, so we don't have any material change being shown for the internal pedestrian walkway. That's a variance item. Once again, we have another item in reference to the pedestrian walkways. Is there a reason that we're not providing a internal pedestrian walkway connection to the public right-of-way on this project?
Yeah, so yeah, I can kind of go through that a little bit here. So this, in all 7 Brew facilities that you see all across Northwest Arkansas and Texas and everywhere where they're franchising their business right now, no 7 Brews are allowed to be, you can't go inside. So our clients don't want to have to provide any, connection to the right-of-way sidewalk. They don't want any internal pedestrian connection because they don't want people walking on their property. It's a drive-through only.
So 7 Brews don't experience any pedestrian traffic?
No, it's all drive-up.
It's only drive-through.
There's no place for them to sit down or come up and take an order. It's more like they've gone towards like Chick-fil-A. They have people walking out through the cars, taking orders, and you just drive up and get your coffee and leave.
Okay, thank you. The unified lighting plan that was provided for this project indicates that the only lighting on the property is coming from wall packs on the building itself. Our commercial design standards do specify that there needs to be some sort of pedestrian-oriented lighting and actual pole lighting in the parking lot. Despite if we're meeting the minimum foot candle calculations or not, that is a requirement within the commercial design standards. Is that something that can be addressed?
Yeah, if there's a pole light to be required inside the property, then we can add that. That's not a problem.
Okay. We have another item. It's in relation to customer entrances facing the public right-of-way. Obviously, Seven Brews model doesn't typically have a customer entrance on that side of the building, but we have had similar businesses with this format that have requested variances from that feature because it has an architectural design element tied to it as well, not just the actual functionality of the door. So that's another variance item we have tonight. Engineering summary: adjust detention pond to allow for full 20-foot drainage easement and requires separation from the building. I believe as it's shown now, we don't have a minimum 20-foot distance from the building. Is there a way that we can correct that?
Jake and I have been working on that, and we think we can come up with a solution.
Okay, thank you, Kate. Provide accessible route for pedestrians. We received a letter that kind of spoke to, I guess, ADA access at Seven Brews. Is there someone that can maybe talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so, we received that letter from the architects. That's the same one we use for all the cities around here in Northwest Arkansas. Apparently, because the building is so small, it is exempt from providing ADA parking spaces.
And that's tied to the site itself and not just for the building itself internally for it to be ADA compliant?
That was our understanding from the architect. And like I said before, this is, the same letter that we provide to Fayetteville and Bentonville and all these other cities. And yeah.
Okay, thank you. No further comments.
Rick, can you go to that drawing that shows all the different driveways that are in this location with this 2 drives? I think we've got an aerial that shows how this sets out. There's a lot of driveways down through here. Is there any way that we could have one access point in and out instead of having the double driveways that you have that are less than 150 feet apart?
We really can't do that because, this is Jeff Bates, we can't do it because of stacking distance and their circulation. They don't want them to run back into each other, plus we have, the only room for that detention pond is in between those 2 drives. And if we eliminated the drive that was connecting them in the front, if you remember that there was one up there before, but we got rid of that to force people to just make the circle, and the one on the west side is one way. It's just out, exit only.
Have you had any discussions with the highway department about them giving you 2 access points?
I've had preliminary discussions with them, primarily about the drainage easement that we were going to request from them initially, and they didn't have any problems. To my knowledge, they didn't mention anything about having problems with those 2 curb cuts.
Have you submitted it to them for them to look at it, or did you just talk about it in general?
We just talked about it in general.
Okay, so they haven't seen the drawing yet.
They pretty much yield to the city.
Well, I can tell you I have a concern with having 2 drives that close together with the multiple drives that are down through there already. So.
Well, I'll say this: I've sent Jimmy a site plan, but like I said, I haven't officially submitted it to RDOT yet, and he didn't mention any that it was going to be a big deal or anything.
That's all the comments I have.
To the audience, either online or here, any comments? To the commission, first we would take L2119, which would be or is it a motion on both?
You want to do the variances first, because if the variances don't pass, then we got a problem.
Do you want to do the variances together or separately?
I'd like to take them separately.
All right.
If we can, or maybe we can group them together.
We can do, well, they're separated by 21-58 and 21-59.
Oh, okay, let's just take them like they're separated on here then. That's fine.
So A, B, C, and D are.
But I have questions though, if I can.
Absolutely.
Chairman, before we get into that. but this is just personal experience going through Seven Brews. The fact that there's no sidewalk or any way to accommodate a pedestrian flow bothers me a little bit, because they do typically have their servers out walking around the cars, walking in between, going up to them to get orders. And so it worries me. I mean, is there anything with these two separate drive lanes? It just looks concerning to me, the amount of car traffic that is through here with no dedicated way for, I'm assuming that, is there more parking in the very rear? Austin, you were getting to something about employee parking?
Well, the comment about the employee parking was in reference to they provided a letter stating they were exempt from ADA compliance on the site, so no handicap ramps,
okay.
Things of that nature,
Okay.
or spaces specifically in this instance. There is some additional parking on the rear to the north and just behind where you see the structure on the site plan there, and it was indicated that is exclusively employee parking. So that comment to, I guess, the internal walkways was in regards to providing something that would actually, I guess, provide a more comfortable environment for the employees making their way to and from the building.
Yeah, I have an issue with I don't see a sidewalk anywhere, or I have an issue with that. I think the other thing I have an issue with is landscaping. If we're not able to put it around the foundation of the building, I would ask if they can place that landscaping somewhere else instead of just waving it. Is that possible?
Yeah, I don't see a problem from our end on providing, instead of providing foundation landscaping, we can definitely move it somewhere else on site.
Okay. We talked about the pedestrian flow. I gotta say, I'm not crazy about two driveways either. And I don't know, you know, I'm just, I'm not in favor of that. 412 is very difficult to kind of get in and out of the way it is right now, and I think that if there's anything we've learned from the way that strip from basically here down to Old Missouri down there, I just don't. I think we should learn a lesson from what we approved before and probably not go that direction.
Have
So
you?
a central, you know, one central driveway that loops around somehow, right? You know, I don't know, but I just know that in general, in my experience at Seven Brews, is that the traffic solution, I don't think they've figured out a great model yet for how to deal with the traffic, because it backs up into the streets. It's not usually very well defined. And I love the coffee. It's nothing against the company. I just think the design of the building does not lend itself to a, best design for.
Particularly in that intersection. I mean, I would agree.
Yeah, down there. I mean, you've got Sonic, McDonald's, come and go. Even the car lot there has two entrances. It's dangerous. I mean, in my opinion. So.
Have you looked at any other options for your ingress, egress, other than the two entrances?
Yeah, we've kind of been working with Seven Brew. Seven Brew puts a lot of time into their site plans on trying to figure out the best possible solution. And we've run through a number of options with this particular parcel here, and we can't think of any other way to do it besides what you're seeing right here.
So to Mr.
It's a one-way.
I have one more
Sorry.
comment to make.
Hold on
that.
1 second, I'm so sorry. The second gentleman that's speaking, would you please get just a little bit closer? I apologize, it's very hard to hear what you're saying.
Sorry, this is Jeff Bates again.
Don't worry, Jeff.
They're trying to do a one-way flow so they can all stack. So they don't like to bring the cars back towards each other. They've been running this model on their last 5 or 6 stores we've done, and they've been having a lot better success with this, getting the traffic off the highway so it doesn't stack back up like it wouldn't stack back up on 412. Really, the only tricky thing to me is when that other lot to the east develops, how they're going to access, because it flows so much better one way and they'll have to access through the back somehow or something, but, I mean, we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there, but, I mean, this is the best flowing, safest traffic flow model, in our opinion, and in the Seven Brews model's opinion, after several other stores they've been working through.
Jeff, are
I
they
have a
purchasing
question.
this piece of property? Are they leasing it?
They'll be leasing.
Leasing.
Okay, so the same owner owns the property between this and the drive that's on the east side. Have
Yes,
they
ma'am.
talked about the possibility of maybe one of those entrances being off of that drive that's already there? So that the two properties could be worked together? Rick, can you go to that aerial again? There's a major drive to the east of this piece of property. Is it possible to do something using that rather than putting two drives where you went in on that access, came to the back, came around, and then exited back out onto 412?
I think it would be more likely to get rid of that drive and then continue there, come from their building back there to our one-way out.
Well, you know, you're not going to close that drive down because it accesses property to the north of it.
You know, he really wanted it to be separate.
Would
The
it,
industrial part
would it be
separate,
possible to
and
lease the
then-
property that's adjacent to that drive rather than next to the Sonic?
I'm pretty sure they already tried that. And the owner, he was going to try to be on here with us, but he couldn't make it. And, he tried that option, and for some reason it didn't work out. And I'm not privy to the details on that one.
this is the trouble, right, is when you have such a rigid model for like what works and what is successful for them. But,
right.
you know, I mean, I get it that this works for them really well, but I'm also trying to think, you know, can we learn a little bit from maybe some of the, in financial success for the business doesn't translate into great car movement and safety for our residents. So I just, I would just, I would just prefer any of the solutions that have been thrown out. I'm going to have a hard time voting for a double entrance, egress, and whatever, entrance and exit.
Good conversation. Before we move on to the other variances, I just want to make sure for the commission that we understand correctly that is the ingress egress model you want us to vote on, that there is no other alternative. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Let's move on to the other variances and have any conversation on the entrances, pedestrian flow, central features, community spaces, or landscaping.
I think all my comments apply. You know, I mean, at some point, if a parcel doesn't work, it doesn't work. You know, we can sit and workshop it for days, weeks, months. I'm sure these guys have had a lot of time in on this, but at some point, I think you have to just say, does this work? And if we can't get it to a point where it works, then maybe it's not even the model, it's just the property. That's not the ideal parcel for this building. And that's kind of where I think I'm leaning right now, is I think that there's probably a way that they could make this work, but it sounds like they need more room.
Any other questions from the commission? Same question. So before we get ready to vote, anything that you're open to changing on the first group of variances with entrances, pedestrian flow, central features, or landscaping? Or do you want us to take it just as it's proposed?
Well, we can add more landscaping, just it can't be around the foundation because that's where their flow is. The cars are coming through. I wish there was cross-access or something with Sonic, but there's no cross-access with any of these parcels. And the Seven Brew owner does not really, I mean, they don't want to cater to pedestrians walking up there because of all the car traffic. So, I mean, I guess I'll have to say that, yes, we don't want to provide connection out to the sidewalk because they're trying to keep people in their car come in and go out as fast as possible.
Yeah, I understand that. And I think just for clarity, I think Mr. Parker's point on the sidewalk was associate safety. and for people being, if they did walk up, that they would not be just in the line of traffic where everyone else is out walking in between cars.
Things happen. Cars break down. People, employees have to get from their party. Like, people have to, there are going to be people walking around this site, right? So we can't, I just feel like we can't be like, well, we don't want pedestrians, so we're not going to do anything for pedestrians, but we have to have some things in place. I don't think we could just, I think we
There's
have
a
to.
bike rack proposed, for example.
Yeah, I was thinking more from the street to the building is what I was talking about. What they normally do, there's two 15-foot lanes, and they stripe in between the lanes for their employees to walk and stay within that striped area, is what they've done on some of the other stores.
Is that what this is showing? I
don't know if we showed this on this one or not.
I can't see it on there.
We may not have, but that's what we've done in the
It
past.
doesn't show on this one that there's a stripe.
I think we just showed stacking on this one. We didn't show where.
Okay.
They usually stripe an area between the two lanes, a 5-foot wide area that they can walk from front to back or all the way around it.
All right, any other further comments before we move forward? This would be first we're going to vote on B21-58 over entrances, pedestrian flow, central features, community spaces, and the comment that they would add landscaping. And also, I believe the comment, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bates, the comment was made earlier that adding a pole light was not a problem if it was deemed by the city to be necessary.
Correct.
Okay. Do we have a motion to vote on that?
It's a call for the vote.
I'm sorry?
It's a call for the vote on
Call for the vote on this.
Call.
All together.
We're going to do the first, I apologize, we're going to do the first one, we're going to do 2158 first.
Right, but you're going to do A, B, C, and D.
All together.
All together, yes, ma'am.
Altogether,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am, sorry.
Yes.
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote by Mr. Parker.
Compton,
Yes.
Covert,
No.
David,
No.
Parker,
No.
Peters,
Yes.
Tyler.
No.
Does not pass 4-2. Next will be a call for the vote for 21-59 on deviation separation between two drives. Do we have a call for the vote on that?
Call for the vote.
Vote Mr. Parker.
David,
No.
Parker,
No.
Peters,
Yes.
Tyler,
No.
Compton,
Yes.
Covert.
No. That also does not pass 2-4.
Okay, which means those issues have to be addressed on the large scale before it can be approved. So do y'all want us to vote on that, or do you want to come back and submit a revised large scale before we move on?
We'll have to come back.
Okay, so we'll table the large scale until you have a chance to address those issues.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to L21-21 Flower-Rama of NWA, presented by Bates and Associates.
This is Jake Chavis, Young Bates and Associates. I'm here for any questions.
Staff comments?
Do have some planning comments on this project. These are in reference similarly to the internal pedestrian walkways, both for the material change within the parking lot as well as the connection to the public sidewalk on the right-of-way. Provide a unified lighting plan for the subject property. I don't believe we've received a unified lighting plan for this one yet. And to accompany that, provide fixture specs and pole heights for some specifics on that. Engineering summary, there's actually no grading permit is required for this project, just a note. Katie, do you have anything to add to that?
We have no comments. We would just echo our normal recommendation that if the waiver for sidewalks would be recommended as a payment in lieu of.
Okay. I'm going to ask the same question on this one. Is there a specific reason why the connection's not being provided to the public sidewalk?
On this one, we can. I guess we just missed it.
I don't think there is a public sidewalk.
Oh, that's right. That's why we didn't do it. There's no public sidewalk. Thank you, Katie.
I thought you guys were asking for a waiver for the public sidewalk.
Yeah, and there's no reason we can't connect to it because there's not one there. And the reason we didn't do a lighting plan is because this is in a big parking lot, and it's all the existing lights. We weren't proposing any new ones, we were just gonna use what's there in that existing parking lot.
Okay. Can you provide a unified lighting plan that reflects the lighting that's present, so we can see that we're meeting the minimum foot candles?
I can try. I'm not real sure if we can figure out what light types they are. We'll get you something. I think we can figure that out.
Okay.
I know it's
Anything
gonna be a big improvement to the site, and I know the 7 Brew next door was granted the variance too from that sidewalk, since they're so far away from any other sidewalk, if that helps any.
Any questions from the audience, either here or online? All right, to the commission.
Did I hear correctly that we don't need a variance for this, or we do? They're going to take care of it, or no?
I think they're gonna cash in lieu of, I thought. We were asking for payment in lieu of.
No, I think Katie was talking about, the sidewalk that would be on the street. We're talking about the sidewalk from the street up to the building.
Yes,
Right.
I'm sorry, I was confused
Yeah,
about
no.
what the waiver was referring to.
Yeah, no problem. That's what I thought. So,
Or the variance, rather.
The variance request right now is there's no sidewalk from the building to the street. I mean, I just think, again, we start building things in parking lots that were designed for people to park and then walk into something, and you start putting now points of interest in these parking lots. You need to accommodate getting people safely in them. I mean, it just seems like.
I understand your point. I think the only difference I would have on this one, Mr. Parker, would be the sense that, if I'm understanding this correctly, this is an outbuilding in the Kmart parking lot, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So they would be needing to run a sidewalk from 412 down through either the entrance or the center of the island where the 2 lanes of traffic are that go back there, or they'd have to cut through somehow into the Bank of America parking field to get it connected to it. I honestly I just don't personally see the need for one in this particular case, because they're sitting on such a vast sea of concrete parking or asphalt parking now that I'm not sure what you would be cutting that out to put a sidewalk in, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
That's just my opinion on it, but on
Okay.
this particular one, I see it a little bit differently than I do the one of the other ones we spoke about.
Okay. Yes.
Any other questions from the audience, either here or online? All right, this would be to the commission, and this would be motion subject to staff comments.
What do we do with the variance? Yeah, the variance is
Call
a
for the
call
vote,
for
I thought. All right, guys. All right, we'll do call for the vote on the pedestrian flow B2154.
Call for the vote.
Vote by Mr. Parker.
Parker,
No.
Peters,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Compton,
Yes.
Covert,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Passes 5-1.
We need the motion second.
So, I'm sorry, ma'am, say
We need the motion second on the large scale.
Oh, on the large-scale development, we need a motion subject to staff comments.
Motion subject to staff comments.
By Mr. Parker,
Second.
second by Mr. David.
Peters,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Compton,
Yes.
Covert,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Passes 6-0. All right, we're on to Board of Adjustments, B21-46, Modern Storage, presented by Joe White and Associates.
Yes, this is Brian Dale with Joe White and Associates. I'm representing the applicant. It is for a storage facility on Highway 412, leaving the May Planning Commission. And we had a few issues to clean up with commercial building design, as well as a building setback from a property line. So we're back to the commission trying to resolve these outstanding issues.
All right.
And we'll answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much for that information. If I can ask just to move just a little closer to your mic. Technology's cutting in and out on us a little bit. It's a little bit hard to hear. but I appreciate your comments. Staff comments?
Yeah, so just for clarification, this is one for a deviation of the front building setback closer than 20 feet to the northern property line. And then there are several commercial design elements, roof projection, roof line requirements, and material requirements. And the material requirements, I think, is mostly in reference to the internal facades within the complex itself, just for clarification.
We have some pictures
Yeah, we should
loaded, yeah, okay.
see.
These are the internal buildings on the lot itself, right?
Right.
That is correct.
Yeah.
So there aren't any breaks in the roof line? And there are no roof projections on any of those buildings? The building on the front that faces out to 412 meets those requirements, correct?
That's correct.
Any questions from the audience, either here or online? Commission. This will be a call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
Vote, Mr. Parker.
Are we doing these together?
Would you like to do them together or separately? Together? We'd like to do them together.
Peters.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Compton.
No.
Covert.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Passes 5-1.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Next is B 21-47, James Klinger Jr., 1406 Christian Avenue, presented by Mr. Klinger Sr.
Yes, my name is James Klinger Sr. I live at 1406 Christian Avenue.
Yes, sir. What can we do for you this evening?
Well, I'm hoping to get a variance for my metal shed that there was originally a 12 by 12 building sitting there, and I extended it 8 by 8, so it's 20 by 20. So I need a variance instead of 15 feet from the property line, maybe 8.5 feet from the property line.
I believe you'd be going from 20 feet to 8. Are you requesting 8.5 from 20?
It's him talking to you right there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, Austin, right here.
Yeah, are you requesting 8 feet as opposed to 20? Is that correct?
Yeah, 8.5 feet
Okay.
as opposed to 20.
Okay.
Please.
So this would be a revision from 20 feet down to 8.5. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Staff comments?
Mike, do you or Blake, do y'all have any comments on this one?
All right.
I think Blake's
Oh,
coming.
Blake's coming. I got you.
Just that in general, the fire department does not support the reduction of side or rear setbacks.
Okay. Any comments from the audience, either here or online? To the commission? Yes, sir.
Mr. Klinger, is this structure already up?
Yes.
Are there other structures also in the rear of that property?
Other structures?
Other storage structures?
Yeah, I have
also?
another little shed that's 6 by.
How
6 by 8.
many storage sheds do you have on the property?
3 altogether. 2 temporary and one that's not. In other words, the other ones are not fastened to the ground or anything.
So you currently have 3?
Yes.
The newest one, the 20 by 21.
Right.
What's the height of that structure?
About 15 feet 10 inches.
Thank you.
Okay. I want to say also there's no utilities back there at all.
Okay. Any other comments from the commission? This would be a call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote, Mr. Parker.
Excuse me, Compton.
No.
Covert.
Yes.
David.
No.
Parker.
Yes.
Peters.
No.
Tyler.
No. Not passed 4-2.
The variance request cannot be appealed to city council. Your only appeal is through the circuit court. You have 30 days in which to file your appeal through the circuit court. Otherwise, the portion of the structure that encroaches on the setback would have to be removed after that 30-day period.
Okay. Next is B21-49, Daniel Bayer, presented by Mr. Bayer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, council members. Just wanted to explain this variance.
State your name and address for me, sir.
I'm sorry. Daniel Bayer, 1411 Camino Real, Springdale, Arkansas.
Staff comments?
Okay, which side of the lot are you putting this 12-foot fence up, or is it already up?
It would be the south side, which is closer to 1409.
Okay, and that's, you started adding the additional to it, is that what we see in that picture?
Yeah, there were some 8-foot pickets put there until the said security cameras were raised.
Okay.
Raised is in R-A-Z.
Raised as in R-A-I-S-E-D.
Okay.
If I may explain kind of just a little chronological events on this. I wanted to start with a quote. Privacy isn't negotiable. It's the right of every American. Variance to adjust the maximum height from 6 foot to 12 foot is absolutely essential. It has become apparent that the residents of 1409 Camino Real have no intention to honor the order of the city nor the privacy of the 1411 Camino residents. The 1409 residents have used security cameras angled directly at 1411 Camino Real residents' property to voyeur, harass, and antagonize its occupants. The 4K security cameras, being equipped with a 3,000 lumen floodlight, are being used irresponsibly. Camera, lighting, etc. can be triggered at will, and it is bluntly apparent that they are being triggered to satisfy conditions of this claim. The use of cameras is a gross misconduct and reflection of the 1409 occupants' nature, with cameras aligned not at their own property but mine. In addition, an aesthetically pleasing fence would provide and protect the rights of the 1411 Camino residents and provide a barrier from other attacks, slander, and threats, and allow the full use of my land as it should be. As a countermeasure, temporary screens have been installed to prevent light pollution and to prevent view of minors where there is a reasonable expectation of privacy. Since the letters from attorney had no effect on the actions of 1409 residents, nor changing the use or angle of cameras and other threatening, slanderous actions, temporary screens have shown to correct this issue and return privacy back to my family and property. It is imperative that the council please consider this variance, and I ask the council, if they were victims of such actions, would they not ask and implement such protections on their own accord? I do have something for you guys to look at in addition to kind of explain things, if that's okay.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Is that the pictures you submitted with your application?
I did submit additional pictures. I'm not sure if they made it.
Okay, or do we have those loaded of the types of fences?
Yeah, can you give us a little context on these pictures? Is this what you're proposing, or what is this?
Well, yeah, that is a couple designs of what I'm proposing. Now, you're talking about a tall fence. We could use elements of the green screening fabric to reduce weight on the upper half, maybe say 3 foot with an 8-foot wood portion, or we could work around it however you guys see fit. These are just a couple ideas I have come up with.
Any other staff comments?
We do have letters of opposition that should be in your packet. I'm assuming we can just include those in the minutes without having to read all this. It has signatures from adjacent property owners in objection to the 12-foot fence.
Okay. Any questions from the audience, either here or online?
I would just like, I'm a resident that lives across the street.
Yes, ma'am. Could you please tell me your name and your address, please?
Sure thing. It's Anna Hammond, and I'm at 1406 Camino Real. I am not intimately involved in the disagreements that have been going on, but I can say that the current structure shines brightly into my home, and so from 2 p.m. on, I can't leave my front blinds open because the metal shines into my home. And so whatever, if a variance is permitted, I would ask that we would agree to a structure that doesn't lessen our experience in our own home. And then the other aspect of that is that we have a really great neighborhood here. I moved to Springdale 2 years ago from Rogers. I really love our neighborhood. The neighbors are really fantastic, and I just think that a 12-foot variance sends a message that something is wrong with our neighborhood that isn't wrong with our neighborhood. And I think that a personal dispute should be carried out in court, not with a 12-foot variance. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. It was a little tough to hear on our end, but I believe if I'm sorry, Mr. Dave, go ahead.
No, if you're going to play it back, that's fine. I just couldn't get from...
I didn't catch all of it, and that's why I wanted to make sure I understood the young lady before we moved on. My understanding from your comments, what I caught, ma'am, was that you are opposed to having the 12-foot fence installed, that you live in the neighborhood, and that you are opposed to having that be reflective of the neighborhood. Is that correct?
That is correct. And I think that the current fence is problematic.
Sure, I changed to my headset. Can you hear better now?
Oh, that's so much better. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, but the current situation is not providing a good solution for us because the metal panels that they're using shine directly into my front window. So from about 2 p.m. on, I can't leave my front windows blinds open because it's too bright in my house, like it's shining in, it's blinding. So whatever, if a variance is granted, I would ask that the materials selected be such that it doesn't blind us in our home. And then I also think that a 12-foot fence sends a message that there's something wrong with our neighborhood, and there's really nothing wrong with our neighborhood. I think that if there's issues between neighbors, that those can be carried out in the legal proceedings that they have going right now, that a 12-foot fence isn't the answer. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments from the audience?
Yes, I have one. My name is Veronica Beyer. I'm also a resident at 1411 Camino Real. We've been here. I don't know if you can hear me. We've been here for about 10 years, and I've been a Springdale resident for more than 20 years. And the problem that we're having here right now, it seems that my children are viewed by this camera, and the neighbor that just spoke, which is 1406, her name is Anna Hannah. It may bother her view because she is very associated with the people we're having this issue with, as well as the 1409, which is Derek Davenport as well. They have this thing that they wanted to make clear to us that we're not welcome, even though we were here first. As she stated, she's only been here 2 years. And yes, our neighborhood is very well, very wonderful. But when you have people that tend to interrupt that, it's very apparent that this is needed. So I appreciate if this could be taken care of, like in the first place, in peace, but it didn't go that way. So I don't know how we can actually address this, except for the fact that we need separation from 1409, obviously not physically, but with this fence, it would keep my family safe as well as me, because I was threatened by the gentleman that lives there. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments. We'll come to the commission. I would tell you that I don't think there's anyone here or online that is unsympathetic to wanting to protect children in the city of Springdale, first and foremost. But I will tell you, I believe that the body here before tonight has to look at it from a structural standpoint of the fence issue and not necessarily the personal disagreement between the neighbors. I don't know if you've already gone down the route, and I'm certainly not a lawyer and would never give you legal counsel, but I think what you're probably going to have to do is reach out to maybe the police department or some form of follow-up like that to deal with the citizen issue of it, right? The neighbor issue of it, the disagreement. And the reason I say that is if we approve a 12-foot fence, there's nothing stopping them from putting a camera 15 foot in the air. And then when you come back to do a 15-foot fence, there's nothing that stops them from being 20. And so it's kind of just ongoing thing that I think is just a perpetual spinning, goes nowhere. Yes, sir, go ahead.
I would note that the screens where they're at have provided relief. I haven't been able to use my property. I don't feel like it is a safe environment with my wife being threatened and those cameras pointing at me. It's just...
Yes, sir.
It is a psychological warfare that I'm not willing to play. And
I think that's why
have you stayed off their property?
Yes, we have, 100%. You have cameras in your property to be able to see that and view that. I'm so glad it humors you so much. As a matter of fact, I'm happy that it does that. Are you like sleeping with their grandson? Because you were very huggy-huggy with him. So that's how I know.
Oh, Clayton. Yeah, he goes to West Point. He came to visit me. Thank you.
Ladies.
But I really just want to stress the fact that the police have been involved because y'all do trespass regularly, and the police are engaged.
Yeah, sure.
Great. All right, ladies, I apologize. We're going to have to mute the online audience as we move forward with this. Once again, we'll be happy to vote on the issue. I would recommend that you seek an alternative method to trying to work through that from maybe through the police department. As I can tell you, we just don't have the authority to give you what you're wanting to go through with on that side.
what about an 8-foot wood with some sort of variation of a green screen similar to like tennis courts? Just anything to provide coverage is all I'm asking.
A lot of times what you'll see with commercial projects will be landscaping as screening, right? So they'll have a fence. They'll also have some trees or some bushes that'll grow up and do some of that. And that's what we see a lot of. So maybe that's maybe that's an option.
You're talking about a 15-foot tree. And I think I did provide the image of overhead of where the cameras are placed. If not, I have a copy of that here.
I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just giving you what we see sometimes.
It's just that it makes using your property difficult. I mean, I challenge anybody. If you want a camera that's here's your fence and it's looking this way.
Sure.
You're not protecting your interests when you're doing this. I don't know what I call it harassment because you'd be looking this way.
Yeah. I don't think anyone here disagrees with your concern. I once again just want to stress that this body's unable to address a spat between neighbors or a privacy issue from that standpoint. I would encourage you to seek law enforcement for that just to get their thoughts on it at a different time.
Would you consider a variation of sorts on a fence? Maybe not. It'll be structurally sound, something involving these materials here. That is a very stylish wood portion that could be built up to, said 8 foot, with either 8 foot or taller, or with elements of the green portion, so it's not reflective. Because I understand what's there now. I don't like it, but it allows free use of my property.
Patsy, what's the staff position on that?
Well, I don't know any time that we have recommended a 12-foot fence. I know we did grant one in one location that was way off the street, but that's not something that we would get in the middle of.
I think his question was, can he reduce it to 8? Would the staff be open to looking at 8?
Will 8 foot do?
It wouldn't cover the cameras, but if I had an 8 foot that with that light green fabric there, it wouldn't truly be a 12-foot fence or a 10-foot fence. It would be an 8-foot fence with a light screen on top.
It would still be a 12-foot fence. Yeah.
I mean, I guess.
You're talking about putting that on top of your 8 foot and
right. It would be
a visual impairment at 12 feet.
Yeah, to screen the cameras. I have, if you guys would like to see them, I have photos of the light pollution. It is insane. It's unfortunate that they didn't make it to the screen here, but would you guys like to see them at least, just to kind of, so you can see where it's going?
Let's take a look at them real quick since you brought them in and took the time to bring them to us. I'd appreciate that. Is there code enforcement, anyone from code enforcement here that is able to speak to whether they can go out and take a look at that?
I don't see anybody from code enforcement here. Okay. I guess we could.
Can we make a note just to reach out to code enforcement and have them follow up?
We can do that.
What a dick.
Any other questions or comments from the commission before we move forward?
Roy, I just want to point out there is someone with their hand up on Zoom. Do we have someone?
I apologize, I couldn't see you. If you're on Zoom, let's go ahead and unmute Zoom. Thank you. Did someone on Zoom have a comment? All right. To the commission, this would be a call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote by Mr. David.
Covert?
No.
David?
Yes.
No.
Peters?
Yes.
Tyler?
Say no.
Compton?
No.
This does not pass 4-2. Once again, certainly sympathetic to the concern. I strongly encourage you to reach out to code enforcement here at the city. Let them come and visit with you about what you're seeing and what's coming into your purview of your property. And if that does not get you any relief, then I would certainly reach out to law enforcement and ask what opportunities you have to pursue that. And once again, that's your call on what you want to go to the extent of. But unfortunately, the Planning Commission unfortunately is not able to address those issues with you, but just simply the height of the fence issue.
Your variance request cannot be appealed to City Council. Your appeal is through the Circuit Court, which has to be filed within 30 days.
Okay.
If you haven't filed their appeal in that length of time, the additional fencing will have to be taken down.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Next up is B21-50, Rocio Acayo, presented by Juan Herrera.
Good afternoon. My name is Juan Mendez. Live at 910 Dodson Street, Unit A. It's a duplex that we just purchased, and we are looking to add fencing to the front part of the house as well. I believe the current rule is that it cannot be any taller than 3 feet, so we're asking for 4 feet just to be able to keep the dogs in the yard. And also, the reason why we wanted to add fencing to the front yard is to keep foot traffic off of the lawn. Because right now that we don't have a fence, there's a lot of foot traffic that goes in and out of our front yard. And trying to get the grass to grow has proven to be a little difficult with that. So that's what we're asking.
Are you talking about both the Dodson Street side and the Ewalt? You want to put a 4-foot fence all the way around the corner?
Yes, ma'am, all the way around the corner.
Both streets?
Mm-hmm.
Any other staff comments? All right, questions from the audience either here or online? To the commission, this would be a call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote by Dr. Compton.
David?
No.
Parker?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Parker's not.
It's coming back. We're voting.
Well, we're waiting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Parker?
We're just allowing normally a 3-foot fence. He's asking to raise it to 4. It's going to be running along Ewald and also down Dodson to...
Where are our votes at right now? Am I the first?
Currently, you're the second vote. We had 1 no vote.
1 no vote. What street did you say, Roy?
This would be going along East Wall and down Dodson. About 4 foot to keep foot traffic out and to keep animals in, let the grass grow, just so people aren't walking through the yard.
Just 3 foot. It's pretty short for my
We're
dogs.
requesting just to go up a foot from 3 to 4.
All right, my vote's yes.
Peters?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Compton?
Yes.
Covert?
Yes. This passes 5-1.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. B21-51, Will Peters. Deviation of required 200 foot of frontage in an A1 zoning. So 21-11 waiver of subdivision requirements presented by Will Peters and Jason McClure. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. This property is...
I'm so sorry. Could you please tell me your name and address, please?
Yes, I'm Will Peters. I live at 604 Weston Drive in Cave Springs. But I bought this piece of property to basically, I bought a parcel for myself and then a parcel for a friend of mine. So the plan, if you look at the request for the variance, we would like to split this parcel in two along the southwest edge there, along that other property. And then that in turn doesn't allow us the 200 feet of road frontage that we need. But what we've determined is that the Arkansas State Highway Commission has taken a portion of this land, and we are 25 feet short here.
Do we have the aerial, the land that was taken came from, because of the 612 bypass, correct?
That's right.
Yeah. So the property was taken on the north side, and you want it to remain agricultural?
That's right.
You don't want to rezone it to an RE or an SF1? That's
No,
why
ma'am.
you're asking for the 200 foot of the deviation. So what would the length of each one be?
Pardon me?
What would the width on each of the lots be? Do we have the lot split?
I have a, I think there should be a, there it is, yep.
There we go.
So the one side, there's an earlier drawing, I don't know if you have that, it shows this as tract 1 and 2 on the left side there, but doesn't look like we have that here, but it would be 174 feet and 1 inch on the parcel that is to the northwest. And then the parcel to the southwest, there's no need for a variance there because it's over 300 feet.
And they're asking for a waiver of subdivision because the property's already been split once, and they want to create 2 more lots, correct?
That's our, it's on the last page, but yeah, that's also our request.
And you can see at the top of this drawing how much property was taken for the 412 bypass. Or 612. That creates part of the variance, but not for the southern portion of it. Because you're dividing it into 2 lots that are less than 200.
That's correct.
Nope.
To the audience, either here or online, any comments or questions?
Lied, I have one more comment.
All
The
right.
waiver of subdivision regulations means they don't want to have to do any street improvements at all. Because it's the third split, they would be required to do the street improvements because technically meets the definition of a subdivision because they're creating 3 lots. So,
But it's agricultural and rural. I mean, it's, but yes, that's our ultimate request.
Okay. Hearing no questions from the audience, let's go to the commission.
I guess I usually like to think it's best that we try to clean these up if we're going to split them again. And so you really intend for it to be agricultural property?
Yes. Well, so just to clarify, we were intending to do this in the beginning when we purchased the property. It was 10.5 acres. So the parcel across the road, directly across, you'll see that the parcel was all one piece at one point, and the road passed through the middle of it. And so we had to include that as our third split. But I mean, we've had a small discussion with Miss Patsy here about it's kind of a problem because the road runs through the middle of the property, but that's it's neither here nor there now, I guess. There's a what do you call that, right of way, I guess, that was a part of that. So these requirements that are in place are, in my view,
You would not have been subject to
You
had
wouldn't
the
have been
road
subject
not
to-
split it in half.
Right, right.
well, the previous owner split it.
The previous owner, yeah, sold the property.
And then they sold the property to them in this format with that split. And the road is there because that gives them access. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to split the back part off at all. So, you know, it's a necessary evil because you can
That's
use
right.
it to access the property with it. So that's either here or
No, I don't know if I answered your question. Was that?
I don't know if it did either, but I'm just saying that, you know, I guess I'm trying to understand, because I just, when these parcels kind of when they come through,
right,
I like to, you know, I think it's best that we make sure that they get street improvements, that, you know, that we look at the zoning, we kind of look at all that stuff right now. And if you are saying that you are going to use it as agricultural property, then I guess I'm saying, okay. But if you're planning on using it for something else, I think that would be something I'd like to know when we look at this.
But you're splitting it to build more than one structure.
Well, yeah, so the split would have a house on parcel 1 and parcel 2. So it would be a...
Becomes the third house out there then. When you finish these 2 houses, there will be 3 in that area where now there is 1.
That's correct.
Sorry?
There's one in the middle. See that small parcel, the 150 feet across?
Actually, there's 4 houses when we get finished with all this out there.
And can you just really quickly, what is included in subdivision requirements again?
Technically, when you split a piece of property into 2 lots, it's a subdivision. We usually handle the first split without having to go through the waiver of subdivision regulations. When you do the third split, it's technically a subdivision, you're required to do street improvements.
When?
When you split the third time.
When you split it, you have to do all that.
Now, the council is the only one that can waive the street improvements, because when it's waived with this subdividing, technically we're saying the citizens of Springdale have to pay for the street improvements because it wasn't a requirement of the subdivision. They will do this as an informal plat.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? All right, would you like to take the waiver first, Patsy, or would you like to do the...
This would be a recommendation to the council, whether you waive, you know, the options are waiver completely, require payment in lieu of improvements, or ask for a bill of assurance. Those are your 3 options.
So my question, yeah, was just quickly, I guess, in order to get the variance, we have to get the waiver at the same time. Or is that what we're talking about now? The waiver on the last page of your document?
We do it all at one time, so you don't have to come back.
Okay.
Once we get you up here, we do the whole thing at one time.
Wonderful. That's great. So, I mean, I guess my input here would be that this is a rural road, and there's you know, houses that are building along the road on down, and the smallest parcel is 2.1 acres, so there's enough room for a septic field, and we've already examined, tried to figure out if it's going to work for that. I have 2 of my friends are investing at the moment because we couldn't split it early on, so they've bought in with the hope to build their house there. So that's the goal. I mean, it's not going to be like a small scale development with multiple houses. It will just be the house. So if you're looking at the left-hand parcel, there'd be a house on parcel 1 and parcel 2. Well, it would become 2 parcels. And then there's a house in the middle there that's kind of dividing the property almost already.
Patsy, what happens when the individual that is building their house on the lower parcel decides then they want to split it and have a parcel for their family relative?
Got to come back again.
They have to come back here again, go through this process. It would be, they'd have to get subdivision requirements waived again. They'd have to get the frontage waived again.
If they left it as A1, they would. Now, the kind of C-shaped piece of property, at one time you were talking about splitting that one into 2 and decided to leave that all as 1, correct?
No, that's what I'm talking about now. Yeah, so the C-shaped property, we're basically drawing a line. You see the property in the middle of the C shape? So yes. There will be a line drawn on that fence row right there on the south side.
So what do we have,
across.
2 tracks on that side, and then we have another track to be created on the other side that was split off before. So actually we will have 4 houses all together.
That's completed. No, well, Mary Pat's house is already there.
right?
It's been there 6 years. But she's the original owner of the 40-acre tract from the homestead.
Okay, just because I've seen this a lot where it starts out, we're splitting it twice, then we're splitting again, then we're splitting it again. I'm okay with I personally am okay with the frontage and everything, but I don't know that I feel that we should waive the subdivision requirements.
Your recommendation, you can make the motion, you recommend that the subdivision requirements not be waived, and that would be the recommendation to the council. Council has to make that decision. Anyway.
Or even payment in lieu of, I think, would be my recommendation, you know, is that they don't have to do all that, but that we collect payment in lieu of that. I don't know. If anybody else feels differently, I'm listening, but.
Okay, so are you making that as a motion that you want to recommend to council a waiver of subdivision requirements with payment in lieu of improvements for street improvements?
That sounds correct.
Okay, that's your motion?
All right, motion by Mr. Parker.
I have one question. I'm sorry. This is Katie.
Katie.
So in those subdivision requirements for a residential subdivision, then we usually see stormwater mitigation for any of the improvements on the site. So this is two sides of the road. So would he be responsible for providing 2 detention ponds on either side of the road for a total of 2 extra?
Now, I don't think he would have the requirement for a detention facility. Do you require detention facilities for single-family homes?
No, but this would be considered a subdivision if that's what you guys are saying.
I guess you're right. Okay.
So subdivisions would require stormwater mitigation.
It would require curb, gutter, sidewalks, storm drainage, and street lights.
Street lights.
Yes. So
And
subdivisions would require a detention if that's, yes, I'm sorry, you're right.
And since it's split by the road, and I would think they drain opposite ways, and it seems like 2 detention ponds for 2 homes seems like a lot.
So if the council approves payment in lieu of improvements, we'd have to figure out what all that cost is.
Yes.
For creation too. But the motion is to recommend to council that the subdivision requirements be waived with payment in lieu of improvements.
It's up to them, isn't it? Right? At the end of the day, let's send it to them. That's how I would send it to them. And they can
That's
do
your
whatever they want
motion with a recommendation for payment in lieu of improvements.
Sure.
Okay.
And Mr. Peters, what they're recommending?
Well, I think I do. You're requesting that if you do the waiver, that there'll be a payment for road improvements that come along. And how will that be addressed?
Well, council has to make that decision. So if this motion is approved, it will go to council on the 27th. You will have a chance to argue with the council or to present your case to the council, and they have to decide whether it would be payment in lieu of improvements or the other options is a bill of assurance or just to grant the waiver. They actually make the final decision.
Okay.
Okay? You're only making a recommendation for that.
Sure.
Okay.
So just so I understand, I mean, the general requirements for it, I know we talked about this already, but I want to make sure that everybody else understands. The general requirements for like a subdivision, when you're putting a subdivision in, is pretty extensive with you know, street improvements and then like you already said, the street lights. I think there's multiple things.
Gutter, sidewalk,
right,
storm drainage, and street lights. Those 5 elements of what.
And then also there's a drainage report that goes along with that, correctly?
Correct.
So that's one of the things I was trying to avoid with this, was doing the drainage report, because it's basically 2 parcels on the west side that I was trying to accomplish. And I know that, you know, there's always a potential for somebody to come back and try to split a lot off, but.
Well, what happens is, you know, that we go through, and yes, all the big blocks of property are run through like a subdivision, and they get all that, and then you have these other larger residential tracts that don't ever get that, you know, get those improvements made. And so is there a process for him to seek a waiver from, I mean, again, I don't know if it's an administrative large scale or what, when they go to, let's say they go to build the houses, can they request a waiver of having to do certain items like street lamps and things like that, or?
Normally, if it is a lot that already exists, a single-family home being built doesn't require street improvements except for the sidewalk, and they can ask for a sidewalk waiver. But he's subdividing it for the second time. So technically, the requirements for the subdivision is what we're talking about now, because he's decided to split it again.
Well, I mean, originally we were hoping to do that in the beginning, but it turned out that way. And then my thought was, with the road already passing through, which I know is a benefit, but it's also, you know, it's a natural split already.
Well, somebody owned that, and as you and I talked about, there is a right-of-way. Technically, you own to the center of the street.
I think Springdale owns that now.
Deeded over?
It's been deeded over.
As a quitclaim deed or as a right-of-way easement?
Yeah, it was with the last split.
But it's a right-of-way. Technically, you still own it.
I believe so. It's like 0.7 acres.
I don't remember all the details on all that. But we talked about this one quite a bit.
And I mean, really, all I'm trying to accomplish is just to get the guys their pieces and parcels of land.
Yeah, I'm sorry if it feels like we're beating this. You know, I
totally understand your
come
dilemma.
through, and you know, they are tricky. I think, you know, because you know, I get both sides, but I do feel like we just always end up. We'll deal with this someday, right? If we don't deal with it today, we'll see it again later, and I'm just trying to curb a little bit of that.
You heard it a little bit earlier tonight, right, on one of the other, where the lady stepped up and said, look, what they're doing over in that piece of property is now flooding me. And maybe that would have been different had it been handled differently in the beginning, and that's what Mr. Parker's talking about, is this board has to kind of almost try and look into the future, if you will, to see that we're putting everything in place, that all the building blocks that we can to try and protect the city and protect the citizens as we go forward. So sometimes it seems a little harder than it need be, but it's trying to project forward what we want to be the best for the city.
And at the end of the day, if the elected officials on the city council want to
absolutely
grant Mr. Peters, they'll do that.
Absolutely.
So your issue really is whether or not the lots created can be less than 200 feet of frontage. That's the variance request that you have control over. The waiver of the subdivision regulations is really a city council.
And the 200, I have no issue with that, so, yeah.
So if your motion is to recommend to the council payment in lieu of, that's the way it will get forwarded to the council, and they still make their own decision.
That would be my recommendation.
Okay, so that's your motion.
If the other commissioners.
Do we need a second to his motion?
I'll second.
Okay.
Second by Mr. Tyler.
Parker,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Compton,
Yes.
Covert,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
All right, that passes 6-0. That motion will be forwarded to City Council.
Which will go on the 27th. I'll do the resolution to go to council. You need to be here on the 27th. Now we need to call for vote on the variance request itself.
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote by Mr. Parker.
Peters,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Compton,
Yes.
Covert,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
That passes 6-0. Thank you. Any questions we can answer before we finish up?
I think we'll deal with that in the 27th.
Okay. Good luck to you. Next up is B21-52, Black Bear Holdings LLC, presented by Michael Cardenzana.
Evening, guys.
You would tell us your name and address, sir?
My name is Michael Cardenzana. We're located at 811 South Turner Street.
What can we do?
I'm just requesting a parking variance to move from I believe it's 8 spots down to 4. We're just having trouble with spacing, and there's just literally not enough land to put 4 parking spaces or 8 parking spaces in the space provided. I think the code calls for, what I was told was 4 spots per overhead door. We have 2. So I'm not quite sure logistically how we would place it, but I know there's enough to put 4 for sure.
Okay.
Okay, you're a new renter for this piece of property?
Yes.
Okay, so the original business that went in there didn't require the same number of parking spaces. What business are you putting in there?
It's basically the same thing from what I'm gathering. It used to be a place called Shine Tech. They basically did auto detailing. So it was kind of along the same line. So I was kind of, my question was the same as well, but it doesn't appear that that's the same. So I'm not sure. I just know that's what we were told. So I'm just trying to see if we can squeeze 4 spots in there.
Okay, Mike's going to help us.
Mike Shamley, Building Department. There's never been a business license at this building since it's been ready to go.
Oh, okay. So there should have been a variance for the first one there that didn't get a business license from 8 to 4.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other staff comments? Any questions from the audience, either here or online? To the commission? This would be a call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
I'm so sorry, I didn't see who said that. Was it you, Mr. David? Mr. David, call for the vote?
Compton,
Yes.
Covert, David,
No.
Parker,
Recuse?
Peters, Ian,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
All right. We're to 1 with 1 recuse. This passes. Thank you, sir. Are we looking at 2156 Chandler Holdings?
Yeah, this is Jake from Bates and Associates again. This Chandler Holdings was part of a large scale that was passed last month. For this first variance, I'll let the architect Dave Burris talk about it, and I'll talk about B 2157.
All right, so for clarity, we've got 2 variances from this group. Variance of deviation of commercial design standards for 1 on the roof, and then variance of deviation of sidewalk width requirement from 8 foot, requesting it be down to 5 foot. Go right ahead, sir. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Bates.
This is for the first variance. I'll let Mr. Dave Burris talk about it. He's the architect.
You're right. It's been done. Got it. 56.
Dave, we can't hear you.
Yeah, if you're speaking, I apologize. We're unable to hear you.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Very good, thank you. This is Dave Burris, Burris Architecture, representing Chandler Equipment. We were in last month with our large scale, but I don't believe we got the design variance submitted in time, so we're following up with the design waiver. The goal of this building obviously is to expand some of their current functions there on site. And in doing so, we're trying to mimic what was done with the front office building there and kind of hide some of the production work and some of the yard that is also in the back. So the design intent obviously was to try to get as much space as we could on site to maximize their use on site. But as you can see on the elevation 3, the south elevation there, we kind of took some of the same design elements that we did on the front building. Now that building on the left is existing and steps forward by more than 100 feet. And then the kind of the structure on the right hand side is our proposed new structure. And it is a fairly large massive element there that we are trying to kind of cover up some of the back work there that we're doing. Can we flip to a few of the renderings?
Got the one up, okay.
Very good, there you go. I think that kind of shows a little bit more what's going on. If we looked at some of the existing street images there, we kind of see more of that production space back there. So this element is designed to try to kind of hide some of that as well as some of the dock areas there that kind of are happening in the back. The rest of the addition structure, we're kind of adding on to kind of that existing. So what we're seeing proposed new is kind of left of that canopy right there. And that's the only portion there. So the large element we're doing, we are using both vertical, horizontal elements to kind of break up the facade, but it does not meet I think every line of the design standard with breaking up the roof line, but it does, it is consistent with the design elements of the front facade.
Basically, you're filling in a space that's not covered now where those extra 2 doors are, correct?
Right, so the space there to the left there is, of that covering area, the 2 walk doors is addition. Yes, we're infilling that area.
And the other building is the one that faces the street itself.
That's correct. So that larger element that kind of hides all that back area, as well as the truck loading area, everything as well.
All right, let's go ahead and hear about your other variants as well.
Yeah, this is Jake Davis again. We're just asking for a variance from the sidewalk along the frontage to be reduced from 8 feet, which was required, to 5 feet. And the reason for that is there are multiple utilities within that 8-foot section, but we can definitely squeeze a 5-foot section. And also the sidewalk connecting to it to the west is also 5 foot as well. We're just going to kind of try to make it continuous.
Staff comments?
Well, 5-foot sidewalks better than nothing. 8 would be ideal, but.
Do you think the first 5-foot sidewalk was put in for the same reasons, because of the utilities?
I think that's the building on the corner, and I think that's all the room they had to put it in there when they remodeled the building, and it was 5 foot. It may have even been the standard when that was done then. I don't know. I don't remember.
All right, questions from the audience, either here or online? Hearing none, we'll come to the commission. This will be called one at a time or together.
I'm fine with taking them both together.
Yeah, let's do them together.
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote by Mr. Parker on both variants for the roof line as well as the sidewalk reduction.
Covert,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Compton.
Yes.
Variance is passed 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The last thing I show on the agenda for tonight is B21-61 Promenade Point 3 LLC, presented by Best Sign Group. Mr. Jones, I believe, is online.
Yes, good evening. How are you all this evening?
Good, sir.
Better last than least than not at all. So
That's right.
We're here today to present our request for a couple of variances for the Northwest Arkansas Medical Urgent Care Facility located there at 2158 Butterfield Coach Road. This is, of course, an urgent care facility and provides medical attention to help alleviate the emergency rooms there in Springdale area on that part of it. The space is a little bit unique in that although it faces, or the building actually faces 412, but it has more of a frontage side on Butterfield Coach Road. There has been a variance that is approved for a second sign. As you can see on the northwest corner, there is a driveway that actually reaches out and touches 412, and there is a sign, or the original sign was there, and then a secondary sign was placed there on the Butterfield Coach Road side on that part of it. Northwest Medical Center is having problems and requesting clientele that they are not visible based on their signage. Both of them are currently existing monument signs, and they are requesting that these signs be elevated to pylon signs to better represent where they are and for easier visibility to people trying to access their facilities. We believe that the request is quite reasonable in that the sign that is on the 412 access side has many other pylon signs that are on each side of it. And you will notice that Arvest, Amerigas, and O'Reilly's all have comparable pylon signs, as well as Walgreens across the street. And even a little further down the road on the east side, we have Harps, Fiesta's Liquors, as well as the Walmart shopping center there, all have pylon signs that better represent who they are and where they're at. And because they sit back so far from the road and from 412, they're some 400 feet back from the road, and people are having difficulty accessing and finding their driveways and entering their facilities because of that. Therefore, their variance is requesting is two. Is one that we are able to elevate the sign on the Robinson 412 entrance to a 20-foot pylon sign consisting of the same dimensions that the current monument is, and then also elevating the sign on the Butterfield Coach Road side as well to, again, give visibility to those people coming from the intersection on the north and south side of 412 and Butterfield Coach Road. As you well know, Northwest Medical Center has been a prominent business partner in the city, and they have provided medical care both for our major hospital and facilities there, as well as other urgent care facilities in Northwest Arkansas. But this seems to be a continuing problem for them, in that they are just not recognized in that area because they just have inadequate signage, and it's not equal to what the other businesses have there. And because it is a medical facility, we feel like they should have at least equitable signage to what the other businesses have as well. And so the request is for, you will see from the next drawings, the two types of pylon signs that are located are being proposed that will do that for you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. Any comments from the staff?
The Special Visibility District was established by the Planning Commission and put on the zoning map that restricts the height of these signs in this area. The existing signs that are there were put in before that Special Visibility District was put into place. That's why he has to have for a variance. You know, we have the one along 412 from that restricts the height there to 100 feet, and then these are along Don Tyson Parkway and Butterfield Coach. And there one more? Wagon Wheel, yes. With the new corridors, we put those height limitations on those portions of it too. That's what he's asking for.
So the variance is not just for the location, it's also because it's 50 foot higher.
Because it's 20 feet, right. And now their monument sign that there meets the requirement in 10 foot? 8, okay.
All right. Any questions from the audience, either here or online? Hearing none, we'll go to the commission. This will be a call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote by Mr. Parker.
David,
Yes.
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Allard,
Yes.
Compton,
Yes.
Covert.
Yes, this motion passes 6-0.
Thank you very much. It's well worth being the last one on the docket tonight.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you waiting. That is the last thing we have, ladies and gentlemen, on our agenda. Before we move on to the planning director's report.
Council actions in June, the city council, let me back up and say, the denial of the conditional use for the church at 1880 South Pleasant Street was appealed to city council. City council tabled the appeal, and it will come back before the council at the next council meeting. They asked that we be in contact with the property owner for them to understand what impact this church would have on their parking restrictions for the entire track, and that they provide us with a letter of the 10 spaces they got from the bank to the south. I got a copy of the agreement from the bank, but it was only for 1 year, didn't automatically renew, so we don't usually get them that way. So that goes back before the council on the next council meeting. I did talk to the property owner today. I'm not sure he was aware of the consequences, so I'm not exactly sure where we're going with this one. He's supposed to let me know before the meeting next week. Council approved the rezoning for the Hilton Road from A1 to SF2 for GNC family on Powell Street from C2 to I1. The Lazenby 15 acres from MF12 to PUD for 1297 Cooper Drive and 1001 and 1235 on Cooper Drive from A1 and C2 to MF24. The ICS property on OY Road from C5 to I1. Mr. Presley's property on South 64th from A1 to C2, and for the Children's Safety Center on Jean George from A1 to C2. They approved a waiver of street improvements with no bill of assurance for Carson Engineering as 1764 Bain. They approved an ordinance correcting a scrivener's error on the rezoning of the property on Wagon Wheel from A1 and C2 to C5. They reappointed Steve Smith and Greg Collier to the Airport Commission and Derek Gibson to the Housing Authority Board. They approved the execution of a construction contract for Dean's Trail Phase 2, which is the tunnel under 412. They approved vacating a abandoned public street in the Mount Callahan Acres subdivision, vacated utility easements at 3250 Willow Bend Circle and in the Henson Heights second subdivision. They are in the process of granting a conservation easement on property at Ramsfoot Lodge, and they authorized the application for a STBGP grant for Phase 1 of Jean George Boulevard from Don Tyson Parkway to New Hope Road. The next work session will be July the 20th. We'll continue discussion about the comprehensive land use plan. We're going to talk about commercial land use goals and policies this time. As we know right now, we'll be in this building. I know the mayor's office and some of the others are moving out in the next couple of weeks. We assume this room will still be available. If not, we'll let you know. We're anticipating that the August meeting will be in the new courts building in their, or the police department building in their training facility. And I'm kind of sad to let you all know that tonight is Austin's last planning commission meeting. He has taken a job with a local company. We wish him well. We hate to see him go, but we wish him well, kinda. And he already knows this. I mean, I can't, it's a good opportunity for him, and it speaks well for the job he's done here, because people understand what a good job he's done and how good he is at doing his job, and he's moving on to something better. We hate to see that happen. Rick Berry's going to move up into his position, and then we're going to do some other adjusting, maybe create another position and move some other staff around. I'll let you know that in the next couple of weeks. But Austin, we want to say thank you for all your good work, and don't be a stranger. And the next time you may be standing on that side of the podium, it may be different.
Hopefully no time soon, but also thank you to the city for the opportunity, and it's been a pleasure working with you all and serving the city. So,
I want to say I've worked with Austin on some stuff, and I'll say, you know, we've made a lot of improvements from the time him and Rick joined staff to where we're at today. So I really appreciate. There's been lots of good stuff happening, man. I appreciate it.
Good work. Congratulations
to you, Austin, and Rick, he just raised the bar, so you know what that means for you. You got to put in twice as many hours and answer twice as many questions. So, hey, before we finish up, I do want to take a moment to appreciate the Springdale Fire Department, Springdale Police Department. You're here every month. We certainly appreciate you guys being here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We are adjourned.
Thanks, Roy. Thank you.